the microphone to go on.
Second meeting, a full year, and I almost got the microphone. Time for the November 22nd meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County to begin. We're going to start with an invocation led by Deputy Teddy Floyd, followed by the pledge led by Mr. Reingold. Please stand.
Let us stand. Let us bow our heads. Father, we thank you. We thank you for the season. We thank you for our community. God, I thank you for our commissioners, my sheriff, my chiefs, and everybody in their respective positions in our community. God, we ask that you give them understanding, wisdom to face the challenges that's ahead, God. We ask that you bless us to come together, to continue to work toward making Indian River County the best county in the world. And God, we'll give you the praise. Let us say amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Teddy.
Face the flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Deputy Floyd and Mr. Reingold. We now have the oath of office of the Board of County Commissioners. That's the noise back there. We now have the oath of office, which is going to be given by the Honorable Robert L. Pegg, Circuit Judge, 19th Judicial Circuit Court of Florida. Judge Page, do you want to do us all at once or one at a time?
No, one at a time. If we don't mind, we'll start with ladies first.
Fine, thank you.
Come right on down right here. I guess this is how they, okay.
And Susan, if you want your family to stand up here with you, invite them up. I mean,
Is there another commissioner? Commissioner Adams?
Come right on up. You're the family. Would you raise your right hand, please? Repeat after me. I, Susan Adams,
I, Susan Adams,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of County Commissioner
that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of County Commissioner
on which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Kim wanted to go left, the whole was really right. Oh, she here. Okay.
All right, yes, sir.
Age before please.
Hi there, how are you today? Okay, good, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? Okay. I, Bob Solari,
I, Bob Solari,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United
the
States
Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of County Commissioner
and I will well and faithfully perform the duties of County Commissioner
on which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We're 2 for 2?
Yeah. Yes, here comes the rookie. He's good.
Congratulations.
Remember, it's per acre parcel, Tim.
Mom?
All right. All right. All right. Good morning.
Can I come over here on my left foot? Last time I was holding you, you're a little too big to do.
Okay. All right, everybody ready? Would you raise your right hand, please? I, Tim Zork,
I, Tim Zork,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and
the
defend
Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of County Commissioner
that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of the Constitution
on which I am about to enter.
of which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
You want another one? Family home. That's good old thumb security.
Commissioner, thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you very much, Judge, for your services
Thank you, Your
today.
Honor. We should see how they're going to work out before we thank them.
We are now going to move to the election of the Board of County Commission Chairman, and I'm going to pass the gavel over to Mr. Reingold to do that. But before I do, I just want to say that, being chairman is like owning a boat. The two best days are when you get it and when you give it up.
Well, thank you for the outstanding
So
job
if I
that you
just
did.
stop this on the way, that solves the,
You've raised the bar.
Thank you, sir.
yes, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now open the floor for nominations for the Chair of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County.
Mr. Reingold,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Joseph Flesher as chairman of the
Second.
Board of County Commissioners.
I have a motion or nomination from Commissioner O'Brien for Commissioner Flesher with a second from Commissioner Solari. Do I hear any other nominations on the floor? If there are no more nominations, do I hear a motion to close the floor?
Move to close.
A motion from Commissioner O'Brien. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Second from Commissioner Solari. Now that we have a motion second on the motion to close the floor, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that was unanimous to close the floor. There was one nomination, so we will move forward with a vote on that nomination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And with that, Commissioner Flesher, you are chosen as voted as the
Thank you,
chair
sir. Congratulations.
of the Commission of Indian River County, and I'd like to be the first to congratulate you. And with that, I will make my second motion, or at least open for the second nominations for the Vice Chair of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County. Do I hear a nomination for Vice Chair?
Crickets, as Wesley would
I'll
say.
nominate Peter O'Brien.
Okay, we have a motion for Peter O'Brien by Commissioner Solari. Do I hear a second on that nomination? I heard a second from Commissioner Flesher. Do I hear any other nominations on the floor for Vice Chair of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County? I have a motion to
Second.
close the floor by Commissioner Adams. I have a second from Commissioner O'Brien. With that, I'd like to take a vote on that. So all in favor of the motion to close the floor?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. And with that, there was one nomination on the floor, so I'd like to call the vote on the nomination for Peter O'Brien as Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. All in favor of the nomination?
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none, and with that, unanimously, Commissioner O'Brien has been chosen as the Vice Chair of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, and I want to thank him very much. And with that, I'd like to pass the gavel on down to Commissioner Flesher.
Real one here, not that plastic one I gave you last time.
Got a few dings in it from the last chairman.
Well, Commissioners, thank you for your faith and trust, and I hope that I live up to your expectations.
although Commissioner Solari has raised the bar quite substantially, but I hope to achieve your wishes. With that, let's move forward. Next item on the agenda would be the additions or deletions to the agenda or any emergency items.
Mr. Chairman, there was one request to just change the order on the consent agenda of 8C and 8D. Just wanted to bring that up now so I don't forget it when we get to the consent agenda. It evidently will facilitate the emergency resolution to go before the LOC emergency
Just a
resolution.
ministerial change, right? So C becomes D and D becomes C.
Correct.
Outstanding. Are there any other?
Move to approve as amended.
I just have a motion by Commissioner O'Brien
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Solari. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. There are no proclamations or presentations. We'll move right along to the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of October 4th, 2016, regular meeting of October 11, 2016, and the regular meeting of October 18, 2016.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Zork, seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Informational items. Commissioners?
Just, this is, Mr. Chairman, this is the Gifford Road landfill public workshop, and just, Jason, can we make sure that all of our Gifford notification email list and everybody gets a copy of this so that they're aware of it?
We will send that out to everyone on the list.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll move right along to the consent agenda. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I guess we should go ahead and pull items C and D just so we can take those separately.
That's correct. Okay. Any
And
further?
move to approve as amended.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to have anything discussed further or pulled? Seeing none?
Motion to approve as amended.
Approve is amended by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Well, Commissioner O'Brien?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address item 8D first. This is a resolution regarding declaration of authority concerning declarations of state of local emergencies and to act in a state declared emergency affecting Indian River County, and recommend staff, or motion to approve staff recommendation to adopt.
I have a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And item C became D.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and item 8C is an annual resolution delegating authority to the county administrator or his designee to execute resolutions calling letters of credit as necessary during a declared state of local emergency or declared state of Florida emergency affecting Indian River County, and move staff recommendation to adopt the attached resolution.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Constitutional officers, we have none. We do have our sheriff here. Thank you for being here, Sheriff. And the next item would be the public notice items. And Counselor?
Thank you very much to the board and also to those in the audience and those watching at home. We have a public notice item. This is a notice of a scheduled public hearing for December 6th, 2016. This is a county-initiated request to amend the 5-year capital improvements program and supporting data and analysis of the capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan. This will be legislative in nature, and again, this will be a public hearing to be held on December 6th, 2016. With that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. The next item would be the item 12E, which is the Office of Management and Budget report. That'll be the quarterly budget report, and I don't...
He's on his way down, if you want to take 13A first, then we can come back to
But
that.
we can go ahead and do that there. He's en route. We can move forward to county attorney matters. And the first item is the Tourist Development Council vacancy appointments. Counselor.
Thank you very much. On October 4th, now Commissioner Adams resigned from the Tourist Development Council. She had served on the council as one of the members involved in the tourist industry and who has demonstrated an interest in tourist development, but who is not an operator of a tourist accommodation. The county has posted the notice of the vacancy for over 30 days, and we have 2 candidates for the position. The first is Amanda Smalley. She is with Skydive Sebastian, and the second is John Kim, who is with Treasure Coast Produce Exchange. County Attorney's Office merely recommends that the Board of County Commissioners consider the 2 applicants and determine whether to appoint one to fill the vacancy on the Tourist Development Council. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Counselor, before we begin our discussion, I'd like to ask if there's any applicants that are in the audience that would like to speak on their behalf or any further discussion other than the written documentation that we have. Mr. Kim, please come to the podium.
Commissioners, it's a pleasure to be speaking before you all today. My name is John Kim. My family has Young's Market here in town. I came back after college to start my own business, Treasure Coast Produce Exchange. One might ask, how is a produce guy related to the tourist industry? And that's really a good question. When you look at our season, starting right about now actually, we're affected by snowbirds and the like, and tourists wanting to come down to enjoy our weather. My business, my family's business is affected dramatically by the snowbirds and by our retirees. So I think it's good to have someone that comes from not only the tourist industry in general, the retail industry, the produce industry, the wholesale industry, someone who delivers to our restaurants throughout our community, to our gated communities, and to our golf clubs. I know all of our industries very well, the heart of our economy, so I ask that you vote for me today to join the Tourist Development Council. Thank you.
And I
Thank you,
believe
Mr. Kim.
I believe Ms. Smalley is here as well.
Ms. Smalley? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Amanda Smalley. I represent Skydive Sebastian. We are a community. We are a business that markets worldwide. We actively work with the community, bringing in business all throughout the year, just so that we can make sure that we don't just cater to the snowbirds coming down. We try to contribute actively to the community. I have experience with large events. I was a school teacher also for many years, so I did events at the schools as well as at the skydiving operation. So with that, I ask for your support.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Smalley.
I move we appoint Amanda Smalley to TDC.
I'll second that with discussion.
Okay, we have a motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. And Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, you know, that we're in a fortunate position where we have 2 very good candidates here, and it's always tough to have to choose one at it when you have multiple excellent candidates. But I'm a little bit familiar with the operation up there in Skydive Sebastian. They do work hard to bring heads into beds in the community. They do market extensively, and it brings I think a different niche crowd that we normally get. You know, we normally get a lot of our snowbirds year after year, but I think the skydive community just opens up a new market for us somewhat. So again, I think we have 2 very good qualified candidates that can both bring a lot to it. But I kind of do like the kind of distinct market that the skydive group brings to our community. Just to help diversify our tourist base. So that's why I'm supporting Commissioner Adams' motion.
Any further discussion?
I think Commissioner O'Brien summed it up very well. I sat on this board for 10 years, and when it was time for me to resign, I did speak with Ms. Smalley. She's been to several of the meetings and shown some interest in TDC and understands that role that committee plays within the county, and I think she brings a lot to the table. I think Mr. Kim has a great skill set, and I'm looking forward to seeing him become more involved in the community and and in the county, and I think that there's a good place for him there. I just think for this particular appointment, Ms. Smalley has more of the skill set that we need on TDC.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Any other further input?
Yeah, I'd like to, I agree with both Commissioner Adams and O'Brien that it's good to have two good candidates, but in this instance, I'm going to vote against it, not because I don't believe Ms. Smalley would be good for the job, but because I believe Mr. Kim brings some other valuable traits and skills to the table.
Mr. Chairman, I guess about a year and a half ago, we had one of the airboat providers that came in that I had tried to garner support to get them on. They did, at a later date, become a member of the Tourist Council as a member, but I felt at that time that member would. But my echoing Commissioner Solari's comments, that John does bring a unique skill set and a well-rounded background to what goes on in the community behind the scenes that we don't always see. So nothing against the other applicant, but I would be behind Mr. Kim's nomination.
Having two great applicants makes it difficult for review for the attorney's office and as well as us here on the dais. I have had the experience to understand and know each of the applicants, and having been the chairman of the Tourist Development Council, and I assume that the current chairman will probably designate me again. I believe that diversity is important, and I believe that individualism is probably one of the committees where individualism is excited and want to be brought forward because we all learn. However, I have an interest in creating and placing this place on the map. And I believe that I'm much more excited about the current tourism that's happening for Skydive Sebastian. And it makes it difficult, but I am going to support the motion. So that's all. Anything further? Again, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2 with Commissioner Solari and Commissioner Zorc dissenting. Thank you. Congratulations. And thank you, John, for applying, and I hope that you continue to have that trail. I see that you've applied for several committees, and I hope that we can see you on a board soon. Thank you. Councilor.
Did you want to stay with attorney's items, or did you want to skip back to the quarterly budget report, Chair?
We can go ahead and just, no, let's go back to the report. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. For the record, Michael Smykowski, Indian River County Budget Office. I'm here today to present the quarterly budget report for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2015 and 16. I will caveat this, that this was based on preliminary numbers. Obviously, finance will continue to work and make accounting adjustments, audit adjustments as they endeavor to complete the annual comprehensive annual financial report. But in the interest of getting this before the board, we based it on the preliminary figures as we have in the past. Overall, if you look at revenues, the trends are very positive. Half-cent sales tax from a year ago is up 3.6, optional sales tax 3.7. I did peek ahead a little bit. In your backup, the tourist tax shows 6.6 with, as they update it from the preliminary to the final, they will make adjustments to the last few months of activity, and that was a positive one, and we'll talk about that in detail because the tourist tax is the feature fund that we're focusing on this quarter. Gas taxes from last year up 2.4, building permits up 12.9, franchise fees slightly off 1.9%, but again, they're within the Florida law requires you to budget the 5% set aside, so you don't have revenue shortfalls, so obviously it falls within the 5%, so we're good there.
Oh, could you back up the prior slide?
Sure.
On the franchise fees, the breakout, I know that INEOS was a large consumer of natural gas, and with the change of what's going on at their facility, that one single customer probably purchased more natural gas than the rest of the system combined because they just purchased mass volumes of gas. Do we have a breakdown to know this includes all our franchise fees? It's sort of a sub-breakout. Maybe I can just get with you on that later to
Sure.
see the
Yeah,
different, whether it's electric cable, wired.
Yes, it's electric, water, sewer.
To see, is it all weighted on the gas? Is that the biggest reduction user, or is there other areas that are contributing to it?
Other areas, the communication services tax, there's been some changes in the formula
Right.
there, and that's part of the
And that's
reason.
part of the shift from landlines to wireless, and the wireless doesn't contribute into that fund the same way. So that has been a decreasing over the last couple of years.
Correct.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Overall general fund, 2015-16 revenues are at just shy of $78 million. That was a positive variance of about $4.9 million from the prior year, with percent of budget collected approximately the same. The major reasons for the variance are the ad valorem proceeds were up $3.2 million due to tax roll growth. You have a big issue with timing every year of the transportation grants associated with the SRA system. That was a $1.5 million increase over the prior year as well, and then a minor increase in some of the other park fee revenues. On the expense side, expenses were up about $6.5 million. Initially, that kind of catches your breath, but when you look, constitutional officer expenses increased about $2.5 million. And we need to remember, in each of the respective funds, the board had authorized the $9 million OPEB prepayment, which really long-term has the benefit of essentially, it's not unlike making a bigger down payment on a mortgage, and then your subsequent payments thereafter are going to be lower. So the board did authorize that in FY16. The general fund share of that was $3.1 million. So that's a big component. And we had increased support of transportation operations and the Children's Services Council as well.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question. On the OPEB discussion, our prior balance was around 36 million roughly before we did the buy down?
Yes.
Somewhere in that range. Do we know, we use an actuarial company that kind of estimates that future forecasting number for us? Or does the state do that for us, or who?
No, we hire an actuary that performs that service for us. It's done there's a major update every 2 years and a minor one every the other years.
Okay. And then the means of tracking these are all FRS participants, I would think.
Yes.
To some degree.
Yeah.
With our buy down, we knew that was a partial buy down of our total obligation, and you don't want to over buy down in case something changes, because you never get any of the funds back if you were to. If
That
we
is
wrote the check
correct.
for the whole
Once
thing,
you put it into the vault, so to speak, it's locked away.
It's in there forever. So okay, so that was a very smart move. So
Yes. We think so long-term, it'll have dividends because your ongoing recurring commitment will be less, and that will help, create some budget headroom in the out years. Right. And it's certainly also an appropriate use of a one-time revenue source, the fund balance, buying down a one-time expenditure. It's not like you're funding, new employees living on fund balance, which at some point, the money runs out and the commitment is still there. This is definitely an appropriate use of that.
Okay. I'll get with you on a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of employee pool groups that contribute into that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. The MSTU, which is for the unincorporated area. Sorry, I talk loud. These microphones are very sensitive. Overall, revenues are at about $25.3 million at 93.6% of budget collected, very similar to the previous year. It's a positive variance of rounding to $800,000, largely driven by net tax revenue, again driven by our tax roll growth as well as half-cent sales tax revenue being up about $300,000. On the expense side, transfers out to transportation and law enforcement increased slightly over $500,000. And again, there was almost a $300,000 OPEB payment here. The transportation fund, revenue-wise, the positive variance from the prior year was about $900,000. Transfers from the general fund, the MSTU, increased a little over $600,000. We also saw an increase in DOT reimbursements compared to the prior year for traffic signal enhancements of $317,000. The expense side's down slightly, and that's due primarily to a reduction in capital purchases when compared to the prior fiscal year. Emergency Services District, revenues are up, positive variance of about $5.8 million. Driven by ad valorem proceeds, we had a millage rate as well as property value increase. And we saw strong charge for service revenue, which is your ambulance fees. Those actually increased $1.2 million in comparison to the prior year. On the expense side, expenses were up, but that's driven by the Station 13 opening, as well as, again, you had the OPEB payment here was over $600,000. But again, long-term, that will pay dividends in our budgetary requirements will be less in the out years.
Could you back up?
Yes, sir.
One last question on the station cost. Does that include the rolling stock number because the building construction cost was $2 million and something, wasn't?
Yes.
So it includes the apparatus for the station? Okay.
In your enterprise funds, the golf course showed a net gain of just shy of $700,000. Number of rounds were down 2,313 or 2.5%. Your SWID or solid waste fund showed net income, an increase of $2.3 million. Assessments were up $1.7 million. Utilities, net operating revenues were up. Water and sewer revenues up 5.3%. Operating expenses were only up 2%. And in the fleet management fund, you had a $95,000 net income versus $150 last year. Total revenues were down again due to lower fuel prices. That's a pass-through on the fuel to the end user. Our featured fund this month is tourist tax. In terms of facts and timeline, we do have a total levy of 4% or 4 cents. It's charged on overnight rentals, which are less than 6 months. The initial 2 cents was levied back in 1987. A 3rd cent was added in 1993 to provide additional revenues for tourism development and beaches. And the 4th cent was levied in 2001. And the clerk is the collecting agent on behalf of the county for the tourist tax. So how is it spent? The 4 cents is divided up, 1.5 cents is divided up for tourism and related agencies, 1.5% for beach renourishment, which is an integral part of Indian River County's draw as a tourist destination. And then you've got 1 cent for the debt service associated with the Dodgertown purchase. Highlights, year-to-date collections are up 8.2%. Revenues exceeding the budget by 14.3%. FY15, we're up 19.2% from the prior year, and 13-14 up 9.8%. So we've seen strong growth. You can see this bar chart shows a 10-year history of the tourist tax revenue. You saw it started out at about $1.5 million, and it bottomed out in 2009 at about $1.3 million. And you see since then we've made obviously strong recovery from the depths of the Great Recession. You see the slope of the line has actually increased, so we've done quite well. And as you move forward, this is interesting. It's a line graph. It's showing the historical revenues from on a monthly basis from FY13 through FY16. And it does demonstrate the strong seasonal pattern that you see in tourist tax revenues, particularly in the periods January through March. Obviously, that's the height of the tourist season in Florida. And you see year over year we've done quite well. But you also see in the May time frame, you see the seasonal pattern drops off significantly, and that's why the focus of the tourist tax is on bolstering tourism during that shoulder season rather than, during peak season. We don't need any assistance in filling hotel rooms. Obviously, in the May, June, July time frame, that is an area where we want to do target marketing in the so-called off-season or shoulder season. This just shows revenue by month from a comparison on a monthly basis, FY16 versus the previous fiscal year. The green shows FY14-15. You can see October through March, the FY16 revenue outpaced the prior fiscal year. In particular, in March, there was a slide in April. That was a month this year where the FY16 revenue was actually less than the prior fiscal year. The timing of Easter plays a significant role. Easter fell on March 27th this year, and I'm sure was a significant factor in that reduction based on that timing.
Mike, looking at some of the data, I've been working with Allison and the tourism director for the chamber, and looking at our occupancy rates and the average room rate over the last 3 years. And in 14, 15, and 15, 16, we had real strong growth both in the the occupancy rate and also in the average room rate. So both of those were creating additional revenue, which then the 4% adds to the tourist tax. In 16, we started seeing some kind of flattening in some of those rates on a couple months, where either the average room rate was flat or the occupancy rate was getting flat. And so, talking with Allison and the hotels and stuff, it might be where they're kind of reaching their peak room rate, and the visitors getting a little bit more sensitive to that room rate, because if you looked at St. Lucie County or Martin County, they were still showing occupancy rate growth where we were flat. So that's just kind of a dynamic of where the hotels, I think, coming into the season this year need to look at how they're going to price themselves and whether they want to get a higher room rate or higher occupancy rate, but I think we're kind of plateauing on a couple of months there, so it'll be
Okay.
interesting to see how this next year will work out.
And that is a delicate balance, because obviously, the whole east coast of Florida is an opportunity for someone to travel to, and obviously you want to capitalize on repeat business year to year and the like.
Right.
But, at some point, price may outweigh and might result in a location decision on someone who's traveling and, on a seasonal basis, and might make that decision. So that truly is something that we're going to have to watch as we move forward, because that is, it's supply and demand and economics, and people, are looking to maximize their available dollars as well.
Also, on those same lines, there's 2 additional hotels in for permitting currently that I don't know if they'll be constructed and operational by this time next year, but that'll add another, I think one's 83 units and one's 80-ish number of units, so that'll add some more supply to the market base. That'll give more, when you get into the February and March, it's just everything is booked 100%. So having some more supply, even though it's in the peak period, and then the real trick is to fill these shoulder periods of the season, and working with the sports commission, our sports folks. We've got new venues now open that we can do inside events at the IG building, that we can look at doing things that are not as weather sensitive because they can be held indoors, so we can look at, continuing to try to grow that new book of business that we have.
Right, the IG will provide an opportunity, the Skeet and Trap at the, that will be opening shortly, that's going to provide another opportunity, just another little niche that distinguishes Indian River County from our competitors. And it is a competitive game out there for that travel resource, so it's nice that we will have something new to offer. And the hotel rooms will definitely help, because like you said, during peak periods, occupancy rates, they're full to capacity, so we'll hopefully have some additional capacity for filling.
But nonetheless, our additions are softer draws. They're a different type of draw. It's not, you have some jurisdictions that have locations that require a financial commitment, and it is ongoing, long-going, and factors like weather don't really play a tremendous part. But most of the events that we have, or the attractors, are they're responsive to so many other factors, because there is not a financial commitment to being here. And I think it's in Orlando. They might have something that people commit financially for several years, and once that they're in the game, they go where the rain or shine. That's why we have so much fluctuation too.
As we continue, this chart just shows tourist tax revenues by month. Of note, and in red in FY16 was that April, which was less than the prior year, again associated most likely with the early Easter, which fell on March 27th. People who are renting month to month, at the, when Easter falls, they might close out their rental period in March, rather than if it's in April, they might carry that rental on through to the end of April, and staying in town that much longer. I'm also happy to tell you, Easter falls, I believe it's April 16th in 2017, so that bodes well for our tourist season this year. So we avoid that early Easter period, and that's really no different than we experienced in Collier County when I was there. When Easter fell early, it did result in lower tourist tax returns. There was a direct correlation there. So That concludes my report. I look forward for the opportunity to continue to work with the Tourist Development Council as we move forward this year. And again, with the late Easter this year, I'm hopeful that we'll have a banner season. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Any further questions? Council, will go back to item 13B, Bravo.
Thank you very much. Pursuant to Resolution 2011-72, the County Attorney's Office is responsible for monitoring various committees. At the last meeting in November every year, the County Attorney's Office is responsible for providing a list of those committee members who wish to be reappointed to the various committees on which they serve. That list is attached in your agenda backup. For those positions that will become vacant, the County Attorney's Office will bring a list of appointments to the board by January 15th, 2017. The County Attorney's Office recommends that the board review the list of appointments, reappointments, and vote whether to reappoint those individuals listed to the various committees in which they serve. I just want to thank Christina Moore in our office, who works very hard in making sure we have that list accurate and up to date for this meeting. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question to the attorney. Have the members that are listed all met the the attendance requirements?
I honestly, I haven't been checking the attendance records.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to reach back out to the folks who work directly with the committees on anyone's concerns with their attendance.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor, we'll go to item 13C, Charlie.
Don't we need to vote? to
Yes. We have a,
Move to approve the list of committee reappointments as presented by the county attorney.
motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? See councilors at the podium, you just standing by for the next.
Correct.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
I want to thank the board for helping to fill these vacancies. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the item 13C, which is the termination of the lease agreement for the Jones Pier memorandum dated November 16, 2016. Councilor, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Bill DeBrawl on behalf of the County Attorney's Office. The county has a license agreement with Brad Foytek, Sergeant Foytek of the Sheriff's Department, for the residents at Jones Pier in exchange for a police force presence there at the 16.5-acre property. Mr. Foytek also maintains the lawn and keeps the Brazilian pepper in check. At the recent Hurricane Matthew had some storm surge associated with it and flooded both of the structures that are present there, the small cottage and also the house, rendering both unlivable. Mr. Foytek and his family have since found other residents, but we wanted to go ahead and cancel the lease so that neither party has any obligations as far as maintenance, utilities, etc. So staff's recommendation is to go ahead and terminate the lease agreement for Jones Pier with Sergeant Foytek.
Move staff recommendation.
Second?
And
Just
that,
question for council.
motion by Commissioner Solari, seconded by Commissioner Zork and Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, we're leaving the option open for them to come back.
Yes, that's
once
correct.
the property is restored, whenever that might be, that we're on good terms, and then once it's fixed up, if they would like to come back, we'll go ahead and reopen the lease with them.
Yes, that's
the
correct.
intent?
They were very happy living there. It was a good situation for the county having the police presence there, with the boat docks that were just improved there at Jones Pier. It was very beneficial for everyone to have, you know, somebody there overseeing the area.
Okay,
So yes, Sergeant Foytek has indicated that whenever the house gets put back together, that he'd like to resume the license agreement.
Very good. Thank you.
And I just wanted on record that the Wojteks were outstanding caretakers and good stewards of the public-owned building, and they were quite devastated by the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew, and they would be seeking that opportunity as well if it became available. and I think they did an outstanding job, and I did not want the termination of the lease to reflect anything of their presence or their actions, that this is merely ministerial in nature.
Correct, Chairman, and that's why in paragraph 3 in the termination, I put in there something as far as that, you know, the board could consider them again to make sure that that would be passed on.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, what is the plan for restoration? Do we have insurance? We're using general funds, or we have a kind of a go-forward plan?
We are working with FEMA to see about eligibility for funding. Actually, on Monday morning, we've got a meeting with the FEMA historic specialist to see about funding for that. Since based on the location of the structure, it's not feasible to have flood insurance, and that's what we got in there as the river water rose from the storm surge. So our best shot at funding is with FEMA. We're working to determine that. We think it's going to be a substantial cost if we're to restore that building as a historic structure. So based on the information that we get from FEMA, we will probably be bringing an item back before the board in the future to determine which way we need to go there on that property.
And with it being a registered historic site, FEMA wouldn't say elevate the property 12 feet and then we'll help you, because that would go against the historic value of the property.
And that's what we're likely to do, is that in order to reconstruct that property, we're going to need to raise the elevation, which will drive the cost up. We anticipate a substantial cost to raise that and restore it as a historic structure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Anybody from the public? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Counselor. Next item on the agenda is the request for the 10th lease agreement for St. Francis Manor, memorandum dated November 16, 2016.
Yes, Commissioner, since 1973, the county has entered into or been a part of a 99-year lease with St. Francis Manor, located at 1750 20th Street. It's a 5.52 acre tract set aside for retiree residency, and there are restrictions as far as income, so it's targeted for low-income retirees. It's a series of cottages and apartments that are there on the site, and it's proved to be a very popular place to reside, and the waiting list is usually quite long. Back in 2013, we took part of the old jail site and added it to the lease. That presented some challenges to the St. Francis Manor folks for expansion with the configuration. So when the county surplused the ball fields on 16th Street, St. Francis Manor approached staff asking for a portion of that to be added to the lease. As access is right there off of 20th Street, it would be a fairly easy expansion site for them to go ahead and configure. So staff has drafted the 10th lease amendment, adding a 0.6 acre parcel of property that you can see in your backup. There's a sketch and legal included there that abuts the existing St. Francis Manor property to the south, right about where the existing ball field is at this point. So staff's recommendation is to go ahead and approve the amended lease.
The Chairman would like to make a motion to approve the 10th lease amendment with St. Francis Manor.
It's a motion by Commissioner Zork
Second.
and a seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. Do we have any further discussion here? Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak regarding this decision? Seeing none, we're back to the dais. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Counselor. Next item on the agenda is the Fellsmere Water Control District Interlocal Agreement for Maintaining Unpaved Roads. Memorandum dated November 16, 2016. Counselor.
Thank you very much, Chair. On June 27th, this board conducted a workshop in Fellsmere concerning the maintenance of unpaved rights-of-way within the Fellsmere Water Control District. At the workshop, the consensus of the board was to expand the grading schedule without increasing the need for additional personnel or additional equipment, and to enter into an agreement with the district which would sunset within 5 years as the district was seeking powers or seeking to expand its powers as granted by the state of Florida. On July 12th, the board directed the county attorney's office to prepare a revised interlocal agreement with the district, consistent with the discussion that district officials had with the board at the June 27th meeting, at the June 27th workshop. Such interlocal agreement was to include several different issues. One was indemnity and hold harmless language. 2 was clarification of maintenance responsibilities. 3 was authorization for discharge into the canals. 4 was a requirement that the district would seek additional powers to become an improvement district, and powers specifically for road maintenance, and then finally a 3 to 5 year term. The county attorney's office drafted a 3-page amendment to the current interlocal agreement and sent that off to the district at the beginning of August. The beginning of September, the district responded with a response interlocal agreement with several very significant changes. First off, there was an elimination of the hold harmless indemnity language. There was an elimination of the direct discharge of untreated waters into the canals. In fact, this would require DEP and the St. Johns River Water Management District permitting, and also district permitting, and would also require construction of swales in private rights-of-way if necessary, or in private property if necessary. Public Works has estimated that this could roughly cost $1 million, not including any right-of-way acquisition through eminent domain processes that might be needed. The district also had made seeking state authority to become an improvement district to maintain roads as an option instead of a requirement of the district. And finally, the district had extended the duration of the agreement proposal from an initial 3 years with 2 one-year extensions to 5 years with 2 one-year extensions. And then also, the district had wanted to include different powers in addition to roadway maintenance, including water and sewer infrastructure, park facilities, wildlife conservation habitats, cultural and education uses, so a broader expanse of powers than originally contemplated. Since September 1st, I have had conversations with the district attorney who is present and have actually met with him also. I've tried to bridge the gap, offering to the water district maybe a watered down hold harmless agreement language, one watered down from the original proposal presented by our outside counsel, and also to extend the duration of the agreement. But to date, I have not seen any movement from the district with regards to the powers issue, and more importantly, the permitting issue and the discharge requirement issue. I thus just wanted to bring this matter back to the board to seek guidance as to how the board wanted to proceed. And I just want to let the board know that I did provide a copy of my memorandum to the board last week on Wednesday, and I do see Mr. O'Hare here. I certainly didn't want to catch the district off guard about this item and thought it was important that we have this discussion. So just simply turn it back over to the chair and to the full board for discussion and welcome public comment. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners.
I want to begin by saying that I think it's very unfortunate that we're not already grading those roads which we agreed to in Fellsmere. If I believe that the agreement that Dylan Reingold drafted clearly reflected what we said at that public hearing that night. But I was astounded when basically what we got back was a totally renegotiated contract by the board's attorney. I found that to be amazing. And then when you look at the different things that are in that agreement, I find that incredibly troublesome. I mean, basically, if you look at the agreement as a whole, just one little one where I thought we were being very cooperative with them going for some change powers as an improvement district, and that was something that they actually wanted to do. But we had in Mr. Reingold's copy the idea that the district shall and the county shall take responsible efforts to support this. But then they crossed off the shall and said may, so that now it's an option, and I was astounded by that. But they left the shall in and put the shall in that the county shall do certain things. So basically, the water control district has an option, but the Indian River County has an obligation. more problematic is all the things that they want in the agreement for what the improvement district should be. And basically, they want to be able to be a municipal government without going through and getting a charter from the state of Florida. And I find that very problematic. I'm certainly supportive of them going forward to become an improvement district, asking for those powers which a 298 district, water control district, should have, and which they say they don't have because of a Florida Attorney General's opinion. I think they're wrong on that one, that's just an opinion, it's not law. They basically rolled over and played dead on that one and want the county taxpayers to foot that bill, and I find that extremely problematic. That said, after we got the contract back from the attorney for the water control district, I met with Mr. Carwell of the board of the Felsman River Water Control District and basically said some of the same type of things that Mr. Reingold said that, you know, we offered an indemnity clause, would be happy to work with that to smooth it off. There's a time that we had in that, and we said that, well, yeah, if we could probably extend it a couple more years, I would certainly support that. They had the discussion of the shall in going forward with the improvement district. There was an indication from Mr. Carwell that we were requiring them to do that immediately, and that there was presently a governor in the state of Florida who might not look at that positively. And I said, no, there's nothing in that that says that it has to be immediately. And basically what we wanted them to use was their good faith efforts to go ahead and plan for the application soon rather than later. So I think we not only, well, again, Mr. Reingold's contract basically reflected everything that that was done in that meeting. A couple of the items that there may have been some, like the indemnity agreement, or what shall means in this case, I was certainly willing to move on to get it done correctly. But the agreement that we have from the water control district would require some millions of dollars. And there's no doubt about that. And we don't have the staff to even go ahead with a huge new road project that would be required by this agreement, nor do we have really the millions of dollars to do it. I mean, we have still millions of dollars in the deferred maintenance throughout the county. I'll mention again the $2.8 million in just obligations in our conservation lands. We've got millions and millions. I believe that we should, well, again, I'd still be happy to sign the agreement that Dylan Reingold did, which would allow us to go ahead and fix the roads the way we agreed that night. And I think that's the direction that we should go in. And with that, I'll be happy to listen to my fellow commissioners.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just say ditto Commissioner Solari's remarks. I think that we have tried to make this work, but you know, we can only go so far, and it was disappointing what the Water Management District came up with, and it still astounds me that they cannot maintain these right-of-ways, because obviously they have to have their equipment go down these roads to clean the canals and do maintenance and other operations. And I can't help but think, but what if one of those rights-of-ways has a washout, and so now there's a big gap, and they're saying they can't maintain that, they can't fix that? It doesn't make sense. So sure, you know, the attorney, Florida Attorney General said, well, no, you can't construct an interstate there and pave it and do sidewalks and all this, but I would think a dirt road, they should be able to maintain it by putting some dirt and grading it so that their equipment can transverse that right-of-way to do the job they're supposed to be doing. So for them to say, we can't maintain any of these right-of-ways just does not make any sense to me, because if it washed out and a big breach was there, they would have to maintain it. They'd have to fill the hole, regrade it, and fill it up. So this is mind-boggling.
If I may, just to reflect on that, for 22 years, I worked in the not for, but in the St. John's Water Control District, the same type of 298 district as this one. And every day we had graders going up and down those roads with no problem from the state of Florida. Every day if there was a washout, we went ahead and filled these things out. It was never an issue that was discussed there that I recall in the 22 years. I mean, back then, you know, we had initially Jack Purvis, who was the director, and he spent a lot of time on graders, but there were I believe, if I remember correctly, two basically full-time graders going up and down, maintaining those roads. And the idea, again, that, just as you said, that you couldn't maintain the basic infrastructure necessary to fulfill the purpose of the water control district, I find to be very, basically, incomprehensible. Thank you.
It is incomprehensible, and it's, I'll tell you, the flavor, I think they get their playbook from the state unfunded mandate directory. And, you know, I just, the people are left in a balance. And we are in an awkward position. And I agree that I would like to just see us move forward the way we intended, the way we said before the people, that was talked about at a public meeting, and it was determined, and then we have this bait and switch. It's very frustrating. Commissioner Adams.
Thank you. A couple
We
comments.
said that.
It has a nice ring to it, I have
Yeah.
to say. and,
Weird,
Commissioner
but
Adams.
it's cool at the same time. A couple questions. It seems that most of the issues that Mr. Reingold raised, Commissioner Solari it's indicated that those were, there was a meeting of the minds and those were kind of worked out, but it seems where we're still hung up is on the permitting issues as well as the expanded duties under the independent district change. So since Mr. O'Hare is here, can you speak to where we stand on those two issues and what the hang up is? Because the goal is to get the roads paved, or not paved, excuse me. Let me not even open that can of worms, I know. Get them graded and moving. I mean, we had originally, I think, told the public that this would start happening sooner rather than later, and here we are going into the holiday season and nothing's happening yet. So if you could address those two issues, I'd greatly appreciate it.
For your record, my name's Michael O'Hare. I'm a lawyer, and I represent the Fellsmere Water Control District. I also represent and have represented for more than 35 years the St. John's Water Control District, which is now the St. John's Improvement District. And in 2013, I, with the assistance of council in Tallahassee, shepherded the St. John's and at the same time the Sebastian River Water Control Districts through conversion into improvement districts.
2013?
Yes, I believe it was.
I thought it was before that.
No, it was about in 2013. And that was before our current governor, the incumbent, developed an allergic reaction to improvement districts or special districts of any kind. I might say, just by the way, with respect to the St. John's Improvement District, that is a district whose annual levies of taxes, which are not based on an ad valorem way of doing things, is a multiple of 40 or 50 times what the Fellsmere Water Control District is, and has always been that way, simply because the Water Control District in St. John's was created for agricultural purposes, for large ownerships, the agricultural function being in citrus. I want to talk about maintenance just a little bit before I respond to your question. The question of maintenance has to be backed up to where does the money come from for maintenance. And the Attorney General's opinion that prohibited water control districts from getting into the road maintenance business was, I think, more a matter of taxing powers than duty or obligation powers. And if you do not have, as a 298 district statutorily requires, if you are not working with water control, you do not have the ability under the state law, and as the Attorney General ruled, to levy taxes for other services that you're not authorized to perform by the statutes. We are authorized to perform water control districts, a water control district, not a road building or maintenance district. And I should say that the the residents in the Fellsmere Water Control District in the county, and the city too, pay exactly the same millage as South County residents pay. South County residents, at least on the mainland side, largely lie within the jurisdiction of the Indian River Farms Water Control District, a water control district that was formed in 1919, just as the Fellsmere Control District was, before there was an Indian River County at all, and have performed those services since then. But it has never been questioned in the Indian River Farms Water Control District, except by the county, that they are not in the business and cannot maintain roads. The Fellsmere Water Control District is not in that business, does not have the authority to levy taxes to be in that business, and consequently is not. However, I did have discussion, and so did my board, with Commissioner Adams, and it is not as though we slammed the door, because it's a two-way street, really. All of the items that have been mentioned by the members of your board are probably negotiable, and the Water Control District is happy to continue negotiating them. But they did not understand, nor did I understand at the meeting in Fellsmere, that it would be mandatory for us to go to the legislature and try yet again to get past the governor's veto for changing the status of our special assessment district. And the version that we were presented with, by we, I mean my board, initially said, no, it's not optional on your part to go back to the legislature. You must go back to the legislature. You shall go back to the legislature to get authority to get into the road maintenance business. Well, we spent in the 2013 effort, and I may be wrong about that date, but it was somewhere long prior to the current governor's service. We tried to do what our sister districts did, St. John's and Sebastian River, and went swimmingly through the legislature, both houses, only to run into a brick wall at the governor's office. That effort cost in excess of $100,000. The Water Control District is not prepared to spend that kind of money on a gamble that the governor may have changed his mind, which we have no indication of happening, just to be rejected again. And the timing, I think, should be calculated and negotiated to fit into with the next gubernatorial election, because the current governor won't have the option of continuing to serve as governor after having served 2 terms. Insofar as the specific items, the negotiation as to whether it will be mandatory or optional to make further applications to the legislature is open for further discussion. We just don't want to throw money away at it. And I think the members of the board should understand and sympathize with that effort. We're not trying to get out from under any obligation that we currently have. Yes, we have equipment for digging, because that's what water control districts do. Basically, they dig. But it's not the sort of equipment that lends itself to road maintenance, I'm told. In law school, they didn't teach us that kind of stuff. And also the staff. I think 4 people run the water control district, 2 in a management position and 2 in a field position. They don't have the manpower to do that kind of work. And that's a question of money and taxing ability, really, when you get down to the bottom line. We'll be happy to talk about it. Now, there was another point you wanted me to address.
Excuse me, Mr. Hare, before you go on too far, so we keep in sort of contact with what you're saying, on the shall and may, I had that conversation with Mr. Carwell, and was quite clear.
Carnell.
Pardon?
Carnell.
Carnell.
Yep.
And made quite sure that we weren't saying that it had to be be done immediately. We discussed the idea that the governor didn't like it, and we discussed the possibility of timing it with the governor. So we had that full discussion, and he never once told me that the issue was shall or may. The issue was timing. And I said, we understand politics as well as you do, and we wouldn't want you to do anything that was politically foolish. But I did point out at that time that I thought that the governor, Scott, probably objected to the Fellsmere application because it wanted such broad powers. And I would still think that the governor might not object if it was just asking for specific powers necessary for the water control district to perform those functions. But I still wouldn't say that it had to be done now. So I just wanted to clarify all that. We understand that there are politics involved in politics, which certainly adjust the contract accordingly, but not leave it where you had an option and we had a requirement. And then certainly not a requirement based on the other issues that were in your document. But basically, with further conversations with Mr. Cornell, it was clear that what Fellsmere Water Control District had in mind was basically to be more of a utility, a municipality with utilities and other things. And he talked about setting up a number of different small utilities, water and sewer utilities in the district, mainly because of the cost to connect to, say, the county utility system. And that, in my view, leads us to just the type of the problem that Indian River County had to sort out in the 80s when we had Terry Pinto here in our utilities. We had pocket plants of water and sewer all over the place. And that's certainly not a future that I want for Indian River County. So basically, the broad powers, break the urban service line, set up a municipality without a charter, and do a whole number of things which I could clearly understand why the governor objected, and was so far different from simply the county going out and fixing these roads today in a way that we could in an affordable manner. So just want to be clear on that.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I think clarity and transparency is helpful on both sides of the table. And I'm not here to draw a line in the sand on any of these issues, and I don't have authority to do it in any case. But I do feel that the conversation and the discussion is over. And I was going to ask you, because I got carried away a bit there, Commissioner Adams, what was the second item you wanted to see addressed?
Permitting.
Permitting, yes. We did not, well, let me begin by saying that the Fellsmere Water Control District, just like most of the other water control districts, at least on the eastern portion of the water control district, outfalls into the Indian River Lagoon, not directly, but through the Sebastian River. And we are monitored severely, all of the water control districts, and I represent most of them, are controlled and monitored very carefully by the Department of Environmental Protection and the Sebastian River Water Management District as to the quality and the quantity of the water that is discharged into the lagoon. And it was not intended to require that, and I do not believe that the draft agreement in its last iteration requires the county in any way to obtain permits from the St. John's or from the Department of Environmental Protection.
That's not correct. We don't have a draft that doesn't require permitting by St. John's.
Well, permitting, but on whose part? The permitting would probably be through the environmental resources permitting, given the water control district on a regular basis by the water management district.
I'd like to read the draft that I have. It says the district will authorize by the appropriate Fellsmere Water Control District culvert connection permit the direct discharge of stormwater runoff into district ditches from the grass roadside swales lying parallel to the roads and rights-of-way maintained by the county within the district, so long as the St. Johns River Water Management District and the State Department of Environmental Protection may permit such discharges.
Yes, and I don't think that shifts the burden to the county to get the permits. But it does leave the water control district with the permitting issues before those two other public agencies to be resolved. And I don't think alone that the water control district is in a position to do that. It doesn't happen in the Indian River Farms Water Control District, where the county maintains all of the roads. The water control maintains none. And the county is as responsible as the water control district for monitoring what goes into the waters. We can't control what people put into the waters. We can't control the permits. And I disagree that, Mr. Brown, that shifts the burden of permitting from the water control district to the county. I don't believe that's true. But I'm not here, to draw a line in the sand over any of these issues. But the quality of the water from the road drainage has got to be addressed in terms of both of those public agencies, whether it's done by the county or the water control district. And it is something that we are going to have to work out together to resolve before we can have a maintenance program.
Well, I think that the intention was to take a current agreement that oversees how the county helps the water control district maintain those current roads that the county maintains, and add a few more roads to it. Is that correct? Is that basically the summation? And it seems we've gotten completely off track and are throwing a lot more into that than is necessary to accomplish the goal that we all want to accomplish, which is to give the residents some relief and to help you, the water control district, maintain those roads and access points properly. So, my goal is to get it done and to get it done quickly. And I think some of this other stuff that's being thrown in here just needs to be worked out separately beyond this current agreement. I do not see how this is any different than when the county added a few roads several years ago, and years before that, and years before that. I mean, this agreement has been in existence how long? I mean, which version are we on now?
The interlocal agreement was adopted 10th day of September 1975.
1975. 1975. And the agreement as it stands allows the county to accomplish those goals in conjunction with the water control district. I understand that times have changed and there's other things that the water control district is trying to do, but my point is, let's work those things out on the side and move forward with a plan of what it is you guys want to accomplish in conjunction and support with the county while we're grading these roads that we agreed with you at a meeting in Fellsmere in August, and we're now at the end of November to do. It seems like it's just being made a little bit more difficult than it needs to be.
Absolutely. I mean, counsel, all due respect, I respect all attorneys, counselors, or whichever they identify with. I'm
not going there.
Thank you. You're not wearing socks, though. I noticed that. No. And I appreciate that, and Councilor Cornell as well. You know what? I can't stop looking at a group of folks that heard us say, we want to make a change, we want to do it. I see your challenge. We all went out there. We saw the hills and the valleys of what should be a flat road. We want to throw a little material down. We want to take a blade and make it level. And we don't want to see the school children get their AARP cards before it gets done. And it seems that we've thrown this into being a superstructure, and now we've laminated it with ample attorneys to ensure that it becomes a superstructure. And again, no offense, but I mean, that's your profession. But it's mind-boggling, because the good people need to have the roadway done, and it seems as simple as drop the soil, level it down, and blade it. Jason, have I made that appeal before? I mean, I just don't understand how we have to put enough stumbling blocks in this to wait for the next election. We can negotiate, we can do it, we can talk a little bit. It's not off the table yet. This is horrific. This really is. And not only that,
if it were a matter of doing what you're saying and what Commissioner Adams has just said, it could be done before this week is over. However,
that sounds great. I like that.
However, if it requires us to go to Tallahassee again and jump all of those hurdles and pay lobbyists there to get from point A to point B, That's a waste of time and money.
Well,
And I don't think you're saying any different.
No, and not arguing, but, you know, Rodney said very clearly, you were there at the meeting, said, okay, no problem, we can do that. And I just want the good people to know that, you know, we've set a verbal commitment that perhaps maybe we're not backing out of, but perhaps maybe it was misunderstood, because they deserve an explanation too, because there's not a board member up here that doesn't want to direct the county administrator to move forward swiftly, quickly. We're trying to negotiate. You actually have individuals that live on the roadways that are looking for material to put it down and utilize their own equipment just so that they can get in and out of their house. And there's delay of emergency response vehicles and buses that need to get back and forth through those roadways. That's the frustration. It really is difficult to conceptualize that we're going to have to go to a legislative appeal and have it interpreted, then come back. And meanwhile, the valleys are getting deeper and the hills are getting higher.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, if you want, if the attorney and the water control district want to totally strip off the idea of moving to an improvement district and simply want to then reflect what I thought was the meat of that meeting, getting the roads graded from time to time in the same schedule we had, I'm perfectly happy to take all of that out and just say that we'll go ahead and do what we said we'd do, is pave those extra, I think it was a few miles of roads, basically with
Grade.
grade, positive. And, but.
We're all smiling.
But
Grade, no millings.
with,
none.
the main other crux is that if anything has to be done with any of the water control districts or water management districts or DEP, that is clearly the Fellsmere Water Control District's issue. We will tell the water control district what we will do, which I believe we already have in terms of grading those roads. But if there are any other environmental agencies involved or water management agencies involved, it's not our property. It's the Fellsmere Water Control District's property, and that will be their responsibility to get or guide through whatever permits they need. In terms of information or anything else like that, I'm sure the county would help in it, just like we help with anybody else. But if they would like to go forward with that, I'd be happy to agree with it, to an agreement like that tomorrow. I mean, I'm with Commissioner Adams. I mean, what I thought we were talking about was just initially a simple amendment to cover more roads in a efficient manner. So if that's the direction they want to go now, then I'm ready to go in that direction.
Just, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
a couple things. One is, if I'm not mistaken, the governor is halfway through his second term. Is that correct?
Correct.
So his term ends in 2018. If I subtract 8 years off, that means he was elected in 2010. So the governor was in office when Mr. O'Hare had two other water management districts get approved, as you said, in 2013. The governor would have been his third year of his first term. So I don't think it's that the governor won't approve it. I think it's like Commissioner Slaughter said, Fellsmere asked for the entire world and tried to create this municipality through a back door, and he denied that. Now, I don't think if you go back to him and say, can we have the authority to just improve the dirt roads in our district, that he would deny that. And I think that's a red herring that's being thrown out there. Secondly, let me ask you this. In the example I gave, if one of your right-of-ways, we had a heavy 10-inch rainstorm and a big breach was cut through your right-of-way to where now there's a 20-foot wide gap of water, and your equipment cannot go down that right-of-way to maintain the canal, what would the water management district do? Would you just abandon maintaining that canal, or would you fill in the breach and maintain it so your equipment can get down there?
Obviously, and of course, we would fix the problem to get on
so
with what
your
we're...
right-of-ways have problems now. They have big ruts, they have big deep puddles. Why don't you all just fix your roadways like you just said you would if there was a breach?
Because we're not authorized to levy the taxes to accomplish that.
Then how would you pay to fill that breach then? Where
We'd
would you
go
get
in-
your authorization to fix the breach?
We'd go into emergency funds to be able to do it.
Well, then.
But we
when-
can't
and
do
when
it
those
every
did
day,
those
all
emergency
day.
funds come from taxes?
I beg your pardon?
Did the emergency funds come from levying taxes?
No, it comes from sale of properties.
No taxes went into your emergency fund?
No, none. They were all built up over the years by sales to the St. Johns River Water Management District, a water control district proper.
And what's the balance of your emergency funds then?
Oh, it's six figures, high six figures,
So
$700,000,
you could use some of
$800,000.
that to maintain your right-of-ways?
Not enough to go into the road maintenance business, but enough certainly to handle emergencies.
Then the last thing is, Commissioner Solari, doing an agreement here where we start doing this without the requirement that they have to do something. Currently, if you look in your backup, Section 5, Clause F, already has in there that they will maintain, they will fund, plan, establish, construct, improve, pave, equip, operate, and maintain roadways and roads necessary and convenient for the exercise of any of the powers or duties of said district. So we already have it in there they're supposed to do this, and they're not. I am not going to go forward saying we're going to take on that responsibility without something that commits them to fulfilling their end of the bargain. I think, again, we had it in this interlocal since 1975. They have not followed what's in the interlocal since 1975, and I'm not going to go extend that any further unless there's some type of time condition, requirement, or some limit that they start doing what they said they were going to do. And again, I don't think the governor is going to deny them the ability to say, hey, we need to maintain our roadways so we can get cars and trucks up and down these things if they go back to the governor. So again, I think a lot of this is red herrings. I agree with what Commissioner Adams has said, and we would like to try to get this done, but at the same time, I just feel the Water Management District has not taken the responsibility they should. We get a lot of excuses and red herrings from them, and we still, if we go and grade this and stormwater floods private property, we still need to be held harmless from that, and that's not done here yet. So, well, I would love, and some of those roads are private, and so we need to be indemnified from going onto private property. And these are things that do need to be worked out, unfortunately, but I just see a lot of not cooperation from the Water Management District, and a lot of red herring and a lot of excuses.
I see no cooperation. I don't understand why we just can't level it off, and that's all the people want. They're not looking for lights and drainage and structure and all of the things that do get in the way with most of the projects and enhance the cost factors. All they want is little material and a blade to go up there on a frequent basis. And that would seem to be a hurdle when we first proposed it. And I know, not Jason, Joe said, well, I may have to add more staff, or I might have to get an additional piece. And then we determined we can do it, and then the people were happy again that we're going to be able to move and maybe redesign the route a little bit. And, everything seemed to be working nice and smooth.
But, Mr. Chairman, I think a lot of the problem stems from the fact that there are two different agendas here.
Yeah.
One is what I think is the proper agenda of the homeowners in the Fellsmere Water Control District who simply want their roads graded.
Right.
The other is the agenda of a large landowner who basically wants to plan for a significant amount of future development. And what's trying to be done is to squeeze both of those agendas into one agreement, and I don't believe that that's possible.
And thank you for identifying that there, because I was concerned when I was told and Rodney had said that, well, I only have 7 ways to get in there if we have an emergency. 7 ways. I only have 7 avenues to get into. We have to keep those right-of-ways open and clear. And I said, how do you maintain them? Well, we really don't. You don't maintain them. So who's to maintain them? The homeowners that have been piling the material when they can get a hold of it? Are we reliant upon the homeowners who have to have pickup trucks or heavier equipment or box blades that they can work a little bit so they can get to their homes that we permitted them to have? It just defies sense that we're saying, all right, we have the rules, we have the imposition, and we're going to prevent you from doing what's right. And we need to do what's right. And we've gotten over that hurdle, that one portion of it, where we said we have the capacity to do that, we have the funding, we have the equipment, we'll reroute, and now we have a major problem. Counselor, get us through it. Get us through it.
I would be delighted to go back to my board and say, all right, let's pick up the interlocal agreement of 1975, use that as the template for what we're redoing with the county right now, and I think they would approve it. There would be nothing mandatory about going to Tallahassee. There would be nothing in it about levying taxes. There would be nothing in it about permitting. And we will do exactly what we did in 1975 and pick up where we left off. I'll be delighted to take that to the board.
Where does that put us, Counselor?
Well, I think that says that they're going to maintain the roadways.
Yeah.
So you're willing to do that then? All of a sudden now you can't.
No, we're not willing and we're not able to do
You
it.
just
It's
said
against
the
the
board would
law.
be delighted to go back to the 75 interlocal, and that includes you guys maintaining the roads.
No.
And again, as Commissioner
It
Bryan pointed out,
authorizes the county to come in and maintain the roads. And if the county is taking the position, you do it our way, or we're going to quit maintaining all the roads, well, there's nothing I can do about that. I don't get a vote.
Listen.
Counselor, who, as Commissioner O'Brien pointed out, if you had a catastrophic event, if we had a tornado come through and rip up that material, I don't know what it would take to do it. Maybe the houses wouldn't be there as well. But if the roadway was that significantly damaged, what would be the action by the Water Control District?
They would do what they had to do to perform their lawful function. And if that means fixing the problem, they'd do it.
So they would have the funding?
No, not on a regular ongoing basis, but on an emergency basis, yes.
But if they would have the funding if they needed to and wanted to, need and want, both, it's like shall and may, need and want to, correct?
No.
To the
No,
cha-
for regular road maintenance, they've got to be able to levy taxes, to
if-
buy the equipment and hire the staff to do that.
Okay.
To the chair, if I may, I want to read specifically from the Attorney General opinion that I believe has been cited. Nowhere is the Water Control District authorized to expend monies to generally maintain and repair roads within the subdivision located within the district. Then the Attorney General notes, while the district may determine that the maintenance, and again the word was maintenance, of certain roads within the district, such as the roads it constructs over levees and embankments, is essential in order for the district to carry out its expressly authorized powers or purpose, i.e. the drainage, protection, and reclamation of the land in the district, the general maintenance of the repair of the roads within the district would appear to be outside the scope of the Chapter 298. I read that to say is general maintenance would be prohibited with their tax money. But certainly the roads or rights of way that they need to maintain in order to do their work, they have every right to spend their tax dollars on maintaining those roads.
So in other words, then in the way you're stating it, let's see if I understand it, is that if there was anything other than just the general dropping off of material and blading that material to make it an even roadway, that cost could be bared by, that what you're saying, could be bared by the Water Control District, i.e. a little bit of pipe, a little bit of swale, a little bit of re-engineering, so that we could give them a road that they use, that they mandate they need, because we need 7 access points to an area.
If they need the roads to access their
understand it right?
rights of way, then, I mean, they have the right to maintain it. That's how I read the Attorney General opinion.
So then the requirements that are being asked, that were post the understanding, the shall and may thing with the pipe and the pooling, that could be bared by the Water Control District. Could be.
Could be, and I'm not arguing that. You know, if a road is essential to their being able to perform water control functions, then yes, of course they can spend money to do it.
Well, I see a wonderful relationship if those roads are needed for access and the county is, the county taxpayer and the county is willing to get those assets over and maintain those roadways, the trucks are going to benefit, the vehicles are going to benefit. I think everybody benefits from us going forward. And, yeah, there's an expense factor that would have to be bared for these required drainage situations. I don't know what the cost would be. Have we estimated the cost?
They've been paying it since 1919.
Then it should be business as usual if they're paying it since 1919.
That's right. And you know, there are any number of the roads in the Fellsmere Water Control District that are not within water control right-of-way, but have just over the years been where people drove.
And
they're not dedicated county roads either.
And Counselor, isn't in addition to some drainage requirements actually not customary and general maintenance, it would be something that would be exceptional and unique in order to provide those avenues of egress?
I'm not sure I understand you, Joe.
Well, if we're requiring the pipes and drainage enhancements and a staging area because the water cannot be shed right into the water system, then would not that be an unusual circumstance? That's something other than general maintenance or general principle that would also fit into that the wording that Council used?
That could be, yes.
So there is an option here. We do have a little bit of
We've got a lot of room.
A lot of room. I like a lot of room. So then what do you think we can accomplish so that we can see the roadways while the kids are still like near middle school?
I think we can go back to a renewal of the old agreement pretty much on the same terms without putting anything extra in there and have something that both bodies can live with. They did live with it for decades.
Yeah, but now we're
Well, the world's not the same, but, you know, as much as we can make it the same, yes. The Department of Environmental Protection didn't even exist.
Right, but as this morning, we're en route to the funeral home with the project. We're in the route to the funeral home with the project because there's no latitude on the Water Management Control District's level. So we're faced with a tremendous cost factor and then, in addition, a permitting challenge.
No, I think you're wrong about that, and I think you're...
No, I'm not.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes.
I think that this agenda item was to give staff direction on how to move forward, and I
Right.
feel like we're at the point where the tail is chasing the dog.
Right.
So to bring this all back to point, I think that there's been clear direction from the commission as far as what they would like to see in the agreement. Mr. O'Hare has indicated that he thinks all these items are doable, are negotiable, and able to be worked out. I think that the next step that staff needs to get with Mr. O'Hare and his board, bring something back in its final form that we can all agree upon based upon this conversation. And I think the ultimate bottom line is the Water Control District is going to have to go to the state in one way or another, either to change to an improvement district or to be not certified, but renewed in their current state. And they're ultimately going to need the support of the community, whether it's us or the city of Fellsmere, to get that done. So that's the bottom line, that in order for them to do what they need to do, we're going to have further conversations on that issue. So perhaps this isn't the right agreement to have that in, but to Peter's point, they are going to have to negotiate something for the future of their district, either in its current state or in a changed state. And I think at that time, we can have those conversations. But I think clearly what we're hearing from this board is we need to remove those stumbling blocks and start getting some action out on those roads.
Commissioner, if I may, so basically, if I understand what you said, and to add to a little bit of my own, would be willing to go forward with an agreement similar to the one that's already in place, that would basically, I think we already have the roads that we're talking about, so that would be an addendum to it. Those roads, I would need some indemnity clause, not the one that's in here, but some reasonable back and forth so we know who the responsibilities are. But I would want a paragraph in there that they're not going to be, 5 years from now, coming back with more roads added to it, so that everybody understands that that's the case. And that the county is, well, the land is owned by the Water Control District, and if any permitting is necessary, they're the primary responsible party for the permitting. And if that's the case, I think that that's certainly something I would live with, and if you want to go ahead and make the motion, I'll second it.
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Second.
Is that going to include a short time limit so that we're not just taking this over in perpetuity again?
I was going to ask Mr. O'Hare, when does this board meet again? Do they meet monthly or as needed or?
Quarterly.
Quarterly.
November 22nd.
Would they be willing to convene
A special
earlier
meeting?
to address this issue?
Yes, I think I could persuade them to do that.
And Commissioner, I can see your point with that, and I agree to some degree, but I don't even want to bother with that. I believe that things are changing, and they're going to have to come to grips with reality on their own without putting it in. But I'll ask.
I'm going to need a time limit.
Okay, I could understand.
What would be an agreeable time limit? I know what has been suggested by the Water Control District is basically 5 to 7 years. It's a 3-year agreement with a couple of extra.
We're talking two time limits here. One, what would be the time limit in getting my board to agree to your motion?
Oh, that's not what we're talking about right now.
Okay.
Hold that thought. What we're talking about is the length of time in which you will go to the state to try to solve your problems. Right, Peter? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I want a limit on how long the county is going to be doing this grading, and that at the end of that time limit, the water management district should be taking it over.
Yes, so that's not to go to Tallahassee, that's just
Okay,
the length of the agreement itself.
I misunderstood.
I think that's going to take quite some time, though.
But if you're
I don't want
looking
to
at,
hold this up. Yeah.
Well, without urgency, we're going to keep hearing more excuses. Well, we don't like the new governor, so now we need to wait another 8 years, you all keep grading it. I don't want an open-end thing here, because, again,
What time would make you comfortable?
originally what we said, deal was 3 years, and then the option for 2 one-year extensions?
Yes, that was the original proposal that I had drafted.
to 5, and if you can't solve it in 5, there's other problems.
If that's part of your motion, I'll take it to my board.
Okay,
That sound doable, Captain?
so my second's amended to reflect the 5 years.
I think if we get into another gubernatorial arrangement, yeah, that's probably workable.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay.
Okay, so that is your motion. You want to narrow it down so that the clerk can get it all together? I'm sure there's some folks that are going to want to.
Well, I essentially heard that we were going to go back to the 1975 arrangement. We were going to have some form of indemnification clause that I'll work with Mr. O'Hare. There will be a paragraph.
Wait,
essentially-
on the indemnity question,
Yes.
we can, that's how many angels can dance on the head of a pin.
6.
In 5 years.
Come on.
The indemnity question has to do with, between public bodies, with where does the ultimate liability fall? You're responsible, no, you're responsible. And it's prohibited between public bodies by Chapter 298, which is the sovereign immunity statute. So you can go ahead and tell me I have to tell my board that, yes, you have to do something that the law prohibits. I'll tell them that, but I'll tell them, no, you're not going to go along with this. I do not believe that one public body can agree under Florida law to indemnify another public body.
Mr. O'Hare, I already mentioned earlier today when I was talking that it was something I was willing to work with you on to make sure it was something.
And I'll work with you, Jason.
But I thought.
Dylan, sorry.
Mr. O'Hare.
It's the hairlines that confuse me.
No.
Mr. O'Hare, I thought that some of these roads that we're talking about grading may involve being on people's private property.
That's true.
Okay, so we may do something on that person's private property, and they may want to sue us.
And you have sovereign immunity.
Well,
Not if it's a takings issue.
so we want to make sure that we are not responsible for doing that. We want to make sure.
We're not responsible for doing it either.
Well, no, if it's between you and us, if we are trying to do more for the Fellsmere Water Control District and try to be as amenable to getting a solution to this as possible. If it comes between a private citizen and a government entity, what we'd say in the indemnity is that it's your entity and not us. I mean, I think that would cover.
I'll present it to them in exactly that way, Mr. Solari.
And
Exactly those words.
That's obnoxious. I mean, the idea is to get an agreement done, and Dylan Reingold already said he'd work with you to try to get it done. We all want to get it done and not hire behind lawyer talk. I mean, if we want to move forward on this, we have to understand that there are practical ways of getting to solutions and getting it done, and that's the direction we want to go.
And if that direction requires us to put an indemnity in there, that's the way you want it.
I'll say we have agreements with cities in the county where we indemnify each other. So I don't think it's impossible.
Well, I
I
think
hear you.
that's that item between councils to hash out, and Dylan knows where
But
we stand.
this is part of the problem. Part of the problem is you guys already gave direction to the councils to hash it out. And where we are is not what direction was given, because certain parties in this process are taking it upon themselves to go all over the place. I mean, an indemnification.
Take indemnity out of it. It's not in the old agreement. Why put it in the new agreement?
Mr. O'Hare, now you're splitting hairs here. We're trying to accomplish something for you, and you're just making it more difficult. I don't understand what it is at the end of the day you want from us. Do you want us to help provide relief so the phones stop ringing at the Water Control District dealing with the roads, or not? I mean, that's the bottom line.
The Water Control District's constituents are the same people that are your constituents. And what we want is to get what the constituents want, which is maintenance of the road rights of way.
Then let's work together and get it done.
That's the direction I'm trying to go in.
All right, well, okay, let's go a little faster that way.
I guess you all are going to
County
vote.
Administrator, no, hang tight there, Counselor. You're still on billable hours.
Yeah, you can go first, Jason.
Okay, yeah, I just want to add one thing on the permitting. We need to be very careful about that. Even if the Water Control District is saying they have to get a permit, that's a backdoor way of saying we have to treat the water. So we don't have anywhere to treat the water. It's on private property. So I'm worried about us coming to an agreement that sounds like, oh, we've come to terms and we're going to do this, and you set the county up for failure. You've given my road and bridge staff an impossible task because we can't get it done. Or we're going to have roads where instead of having the whoop-de-doos, as I call them, and you got 2 feet of water sitting in the holes, we'll grade the road out, and then we'll have 4 inches of water sitting across the whole road if we have nowhere for it to go. The other alternative, and then you have the breaches and it falls into the canal anyway. So we've got to have some way of doing that. And one of the reasons I've been a little frustrated in this process, because we had that meeting at the Fellsmere City Hall, and what was represented to everyone in the room was that sure, the county can just run a pipe under the road and drain it into the canals. That's not a problem. In fact, we've done it for many homeowners already. And then now what we've gotten is something completely different than that. So we need to make sure that whatever agreement we have is something realistic, that we're not just saying the county will maintain the roads, but we're giving the county the ability to maintain the roads, and that has to include drainage. If you have nowhere for the water to go, the road's going to continue to be a wreck, and then the water control district's out of the complaint business, and they're all coming to the county saying, you guys can't maintain this road, you're supposed to maintain the road, but we've given our road and bridge folks an impossible task. So I'm just want to caution against that.
And actually, I don't think in the agreement we should even say maintain the road. I think we should say we will agree to grade it according to the schedule that we've got in the addendum.
Jason agreed, and Counselor, we know what we're up against. I believe you know what we're up against, and I think that we can come to a resolution, and there might even be a possibility that the Drainage Control District has some area where we can utilize and reduce the cost on this drainage treatment process. Is that not possible?
I think that's possible, yes.
I mean, that would be the perfect scenario. This way we can get the roads graded, we have the drainage, we lay the lines, and we're done. But the property is, there's a whole lot of property in that drainage control district, is there not? Maybe perhaps we can invent a portion or designate a portion, not invent, designate a portion so that we can get the accomplished goal done?
I think so, but I don't want to go off on the
Right.
tangent of who owns what. There's no point in that.
I just wanted to plant the seed, maybe throw another angel on the head of the pin.
Well, the seed of the weed is planted.
Oh, that's a whole different portion of legislation that happened this year, but we'll discuss that. All right, we have a, yes,
Well,
Counselor?
The original agreement from 1975 talks about maintenance of the roadways. And what I just heard from the board is that if we're going to move forward with a modification of the 1975 agreement, different from what I drafted, which I felt was consistent with what the board talked about in the June meeting and the July meeting, is that those are no longer going to be our maintenance responsibilities. It's solely going to just be our grading responsibilities. And that's all we're doing.
That's
we're not
correct.
doing anything more to fix, maintain, anything else for those roads. And if it requires swales to be obtained or other property to be obtained, we're not in that business.
Let me
And
ask
I just want to make sure that's
Jason
very
one
clear.
question. Jason, when we originally talked about the grading of these roads, did you anticipate putting in some dirt from time to time?
We know that some of those roads need material up front.
Sure.
So we had committed to doing that at a cost, I think, of a little over $200,000 is our estimate.
Okay, I don't want to exclude that.
Right.
So I
Right.
think that should be included, but
I will say the current agreement says that they will provide fill material, and they say that only meant that pile over there.
I understand that problem too.
But I think they could take that money they've got from selling their land and maybe buy some material every once in a while if we need it.
So then I'd say that we put up a maximum amount that we put in every year for that type of thing.
Right.
Sorry, Dave.
And
I don't
they
think
could
that's
supplement
doable.
it with
Oh,
their-
that would, yeah.
That particular pile of soil is gone. There is no other pile.
But the agreement didn't specify that pile of soil. It said that the district would provide moral. So,
Material, yes.
I don't know how they're going to do it or where they're going to get it. That's for the engineers and Rodney to decide.
We appreciate his commitment.
so are we almost there to go forward with this? You want?
We want to go,
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
as I understand the motion from Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Solari, we go back to the 75 agreement. We have an indemnity clause that Mr. O'Hare and I will work on. We will have a limit on the number of roads that will be added. And then I'm not even going to talk about the permitting issue because I'm going to change this from maintenance to grading and limit it to that. And it'll be a 5-year deal with 2 potential 1-year extensions.
No, 3.
Three-year
Three.
deals.
One.
And what,
My
Commissioner?
preference.
2 ones.
So it's back to the 3 and 2? Yeah, okay, the 3 and 2 years. And I think what we all understand is the reason for that is to give the time for the district to become an improvement district through the state of Florida.
And then the cap on the funding, right, for the material? The 200,000?
Yeah, the cap on the funding, which is what I think the board had already authorized staff to move forward with a budget amendment. Did I miss any of the details from board members?
That was for initial. I think the cap is for ongoing.
sounds,
What's the cap?
what was that,
ongoing, Jason?
Administrator?
Ongoing material.
Yeah, what,
Big amount.
Oh, after the initial 200?
yeah,
Is that-
what cap do I have to?
I don't know if we need that in this interlocal. I think
Okay.
that's a board policy.
Policy.
I mean, you're giving me something that's going to come back on the table again, but that's all right. It's up to you.
I mean, I've seen the, I just hope those watching in the audience and at home can understand that this board directed a number of different significant protections be included for the county, and in order to resolve this issue, this board has definitely walked back from a lot of those things that it originally asked for. I just want the public to understand that that was very significant concessions. by
Big
this board to
concessions.
move forward, and that's all I've heard today.
And I'd like to add that the county has been trying to move this forward the whole time. I know there's some thought out there that, we keep getting, we get calls, how come the county's not grading this? We have been trying to make all efforts to move this thing forward.
Anything further?
Mr.
Anything further from the
Mr. Chairman,
board?
I'm going to vote for the motion to move this forward, but reserving my right to vote against the final thing when I see it. But I'm willing to move it, let staff have one last shot at it.
All right, I know Councilor Hare is going to work very hard to ensure that we can get this goal accomplished.
Oh, you're a diplomat, John.
I trust that, sir. Anything further from the board? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to contribute to this decision? Please come to the podium, identify yourself, state your name and address for the record, and we appreciate that, and I understand where.
My name is Karen Ledford. My address is 14850 107th Street, Fellsmere, Florida. Thank you. Thank you all. We, as the Fellsmere Property Owners Association, know it's very clear today, and it's been very clear from conversations with your people, that you're trying very hard to get this done. We appreciate it. I want to tell you a quick story. Person down my road back in August came up on an abandoned truck right next to her house, called the police. The sheriff's department responded and couldn't get down our road at 11 o'clock at night. She was there by herself with her 11-year-old daughter. It took calling a 4x4 truck from South County to come up to traverse that road. If that was your wife and your daughter, an hour and 15 minutes later, the cops got out there and checked it out, and it was just an abandoned truck. It wasn't somebody that was out there trying to kill somebody. Thank God. You people took care of it. You came out, you put the dirt down, you sent your people out immediately because you knew we were in trouble. Mr. O'Hare, please, please work with these people to get this done. I see very clearly that you, as the attorney for the Water Control District, have, your parameters. If there's any way that we can make this agreement that you have from 1975 go forward and just do this extra 9 miles starting tomorrow, can we please do it for our sake, for our children's sake, for the people that live down these roads? There's 9 miles of roads down there you can't get through. If you had to send an ambulance or a fire department, would not happen. That's not acceptable. So if there's any way, shape, or form, sir, that you could give concessions on the indemnity agreement, as you say, it's not legal. If he comes up with some kind of language that says, let's work this all out, please, please, as Fellsmere residents, we have to have this. If we don't get it, we're out of material. We're out of any options. We can't do anything other than hope that you people get this done quickly.
If I didn't think it could be done, I wouldn't be here this morning.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We understand what the issues are, and we're clear, and thank you for working on it, and the quicker the better, people. That's all, okay?
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jason Unamaker, City Manager, City of Fellsmere. Just a couple quick issues. One, to the water quality issue. I think in the short term, it's unlikely that St. John's would drop the hammer on that, but certainly from a long-term perspective, that's an issue we're all grappling with. And I would suggest that y'all take a look at the 2 water farming projects that are coming down the pike from St. John's, one being in Western Fellsmere in the Water Management Control District, or the Water Control District. Perhaps that could deal with all of our treatment issues as an intercept off of Park Lateral, where all this water flows past. So that may be one element we could pursue. On the material issue, we've got a couple of intercept facilities that we're doing, so if we have any surplus material, we'll be happy to make that available to the county. And then finally, I just wanted to echo the concerns brought forward by several of y'all about this kind of municipal creep at our boundary. That's an issue that we have a very serious concern about, and certainly we're going to look at how we protect our water supplies and whatnot, and the potential for an improvement district to affect the fiscal capacity of the city is something that we have to guard against. So that's something we'll be looking at. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
Councilman.
Anyone else? So we have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. With that, folks, thank you, and we will take a 10-minute recess. Bob, you're always trying to make everybody happy. That's the problem. You know, you just can spread it so thin. Well, Cole is coming back. All right.
Use that gavel.
Gentlemen, the meeting will now be called back to order, and we've now paved the road for the next item. We have commission items. Commissioner Tim Zork, as the Indian River Lagoon Council discussion. That's memorandum dated November 15, 2016.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, I'd like to reopen the discussion of the Indian River County's participation as becoming a full voting member of the Indian River Lagoon Council. I know we have discussed this item in the past, and I, as then and do now, still can respect the opinions of some of the other commissioners that had the concerns that they had expressed. However, looking at a going forward, where the Lagoon Council is at, what I think they will be able to accomplish, looking at the lagoon as a whole, that with the county potentially becoming the 5th voting member, there is 5 voting members that are elected by the public, with 3 non-elected appointee votes, that the elected representatives still have the majority of the vote. also with recent conversations with Congressman Posey's office staff, as going forward with some potential NEP funding in the future, some of that NEP funding may be only targeted to NEP member participants, which could potentially leave us with funding opportunities that are out there that we might not be eligible for. I think over the last number of months, we all went through campaign season, or not everybody, but a number of us did. I'd say that the membership in the Lagoon Council is probably equally as concerning as the All Aboard Florida and Vero Beach Electric issue. And with that, I'm going to actually kick this off with closing my statement as a motion that we consider a vote to officially join the Indian River Lagoon Council, with details to be worked out with the Attorney's Office in the near future, but mainly to get a consensus vote that we would like to move forward. So that would be my motion, and then also open to discussion with any of the other members.
Wait, you're looking for a consensus, a motion
To
for
move forward, there's-
consensus?
Well, a motion to become a member, but then we have to work out the details of that Dylan will have to reach out to the council because of the other agreement that's in effect. How would we move into that position based on how that agreement is written?
I would prefer to discuss, I think most of us would prefer to discuss the option before the motion, but that's, I mean, I did have some questions.
Sure.
That because you're bringing forward, if that would be suitable.
Sure.
The Lagoon Advisory Council has been created and in existence how long?
From their initial formation, before everybody was on board, I'd have to probably yield to Dylan from the actual dates.
My recollection is that February 2015 is the month in which they executed the interlocal agreement.
Right, they were meeting prior to that in some organizational fashion with some.
There was the old Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program under the St. John's River Water Management District, so they were meeting under that, and they had been for about 20, 25 years.
Right.
And yes, but then again, their mission and direction was not established as to what it is today.
Correct.
So, with that said, now we're talking about a year and 3/4 in existence, and I'd like to know what they've accomplished during this mission. What
I'd be happy to tell you one thing they've accomplished if you'd like.
I know, but he's presenting his.
Oh, I'm sorry.
commission.
I apologize. I didn't
And
know-
then we'll have
I thought he was
discussion.
done, but
But
I'd be
I would like to know what has been accomplished for the past year and 3/4 that they've been in existence while we have moved forward with our projects.
Well, and I think we will continue to always move forward with our projects, whether we're a member or not. I don't think that changes that aspect. We may have other funding partner opportunities that we would be eligible for. What I'd say what they've done is laid the appropriate groundwork going forward, getting the education community, the municipalities engaged up and down the lagoon. As for if you're looking for specific projects, they've only had a short-term 1-year funding cycle to go through. So their number of projects is, I would say, very limited because of the initial money that they started with and just being open for a short period of time. But I think what they've done is they've built a foundation that can be built on between leadership, participation, everything from oversight on their, they've just got some great quality folks that are participating on the entire length of the lagoon, whether it's, again, from the education side, the institutional side, to financial advisors to make sure that they're spending every penny as wisely as they can. Now, during startup, when you start up anything, you have front-loaded costs that will drive your annual report showing that you're heavy on administration charges. When you're creating new documents, when you're creating legal expenditures to get your template of how you're going to operate correct, your first year or two of going through that process, you spend more funding to get things right before you just rush into things and go forward. And So what I think they've done most importantly is laid a great foundation to build on for all the communities and counties along the Indian River Lagoon to have a clear path forward of measured goals and objectives. And measured is very important, because if you don't measure, how do you know if you're going in the right direction? And I think under the leadership of Dr. Dwayne DeFries, that the goals, as they're still fleshing some of them out, obviously the health and restoration of the Indian River Lagoon is the big picture goal. How that will be accomplished through a number of local, small, larger regional projects as additional funding becomes available. And also one voice, one simple task that I think is critically important is that everybody measures to the same standards. So if you have Volusia County measuring discharge outfall water quality one way, and then you have Martin County measuring it a different way, and we look at it in a third way, having everybody on the same standard and same metric, so you know that you're collecting the data in a format that everybody understands and everybody's measuring using the same methodology and the same measured points. That seems very simple, but I was surprised when I attended one of the municipality workshops that they held, that getting a standardization of just the metrics on testing, how important that will be. Because if you build a database with everybody collecting their data in a different fashion, you don't have a very useful database if everybody's not all on the same page.
So idealistically, they got together, they got a group together, they identified some selected experts, but they really haven't moved forward with anything yet. Not that they have to do that. I'm not saying that an organization has to fully accomplish something before we say, hey, we're in. But a year and 3/4 have been forward, and during that time, we have moved forward on a few of our current projects that were maintained and enhanced. We moved forward another project, and we have another one in the hopper. In addition, the jurisdictions that they represent have not had that success either. I just, how do I get around saying that I believe that we're the jurisdiction to be looking at?
Well, and don't you think it would be great if we could share that leadership and the vision of what we get done here locally as being a member of the council? I think that would be a very
welcome to come,
positive.
though. This is an empty room today. Right now, there was some people earlier, and our offices are open, and our communication lines are open, and our staff is in abundance of sharing their learning mechanisms. They've invited anybody and everybody to come to our systems and see what we're doing, and I just think that you just identified that nothing was accomplished.
No,
just
I
yet,
clearly
other
did. I did not say nothing was
That's what I
accomplished.
see.
If you want, let's go to their website. If you want a blow-by-blow, project-by-project, interim grant funding for Sebastian and other municipalities and counties up along the lagoon, that would be fine. I think the premise, we will not stop doing what we do. I think by becoming a member of the Lagoon Council, we will do what we always have done in a leadership role, and we will then have additional things that we can be part of as becoming a member of the council. We're not going to stop doing what we do. We've made a significant commitment of our 1 cent local option tax. We have been the leader in investing in projects, whether it's the turf algae scrubbers or Offspring Marsh or the new Trailhead project. We are clearly a leader in that. But does that mean you don't want to do more? I'd like to do what we're doing and build on that by becoming a member of the council.
And I agree. I just don't know if that involvement is going to mean doing more. I did speak at a Treasure Coast Regional planning meeting, and I was approached that, maybe we'd like to reconsider this whole lagoon advisory concept. And I invited the folks to be in touch, and I have not received that call because specifically I gave a directive that I would like to see some mission accomplished statements made so that it can better indicate what we should be doing and where we should be buying into. And it was agreed, and I've never heard. Commissioner Solari.
Yeah, to address some of the things, the idea that there are 5 elected, well, I'll start with the 3 bureaucrats. There's just absolutely no reason in a democracy when you have elected officials to put 3 bureaucrats on the board with votes when they already set the rules and monitor the rules and then decide what fines you take. And the idea that 5 elected officials are going to vote the same way, well, we see that that doesn't happen just on this county, but we know what happened with something like All Aboard Florida, where Brevard, who would be a member of the Indian River Lagoon Council, certainly doesn't vote the way Indian River Council does. On the expenses in the first year, supposedly, of the organizational costs and them being particularly heavy, that's just plain wrong. Mike, if you'd put this first page up there, the first page that's going to come up on the Elmo is the Indian River Lagoon Council budget for the fiscal year 2015-2016. Aside for the yellow highlights and the red to the right, this is from the Indian River Lagoon Council. The total budget is $786,500. So the administrative costs in their first year are 36.2%. The administrative costs down there, which are the administrative services, which cost the legal, accounting, auditing, those are the type of things which may be part of the first year, are $20,000. So in none of this.
No, others 20,000. Administrative salary 75. Other is 20.
Well, administrative services, 75,000, which is 10%, if that, but all that doesn't go to organizational costs. So the total budget will still be a third, at least, for the second year for administrative costs. So in terms of what we accomplished, or they accomplished in the first year, 2015-2016, the city of Sebastian was awarded $25,000 for an oyster shell bag project. That's what the county got out of it. But the county participants will do better in the 2015-16, 17,000 fiscal year, as it's anticipated that they will get $122,000 for a Vero Isles permeable pavement inlet retrofit and CIPP, and $100,000 for a septic tank to sewer project. So that's good. But by comparison, Indian River County, without the new bureaucracy, has been awarded 2 grants this past year: $1.2 million for the Osprey Acres project, and $649,240 for the North Sebastian septic to sewer project. So the county will receive a total of $1.849,490 without the need for the new bureaucracy. Interesting, the way these things work, there was a recent Press Journal article. It's from November 17th. The headline is, "Trump's EPA Threat Bad?" And that's a question. And then the National Estuary Program is discussed there, and the National Estuary Program received $625,000 from the EPA for the current year. And that $625,000 is the only justification for even having one of these Indian River Lagoon councils. But again, what happens is when you set one of these things up is you get a great bureaucracy. So what have they accomplished this year? Mike, the second sheet, please.
Hang on, before let's
finish.
Okay, I was going to refer to your page 1 if you wanted to, but if we'll go back to it.
That's their numbers from them.
Oh, no, but keep in mind, that was their budget. That's not their actual.
That's fine, but that was their budget, and that's what I got when I made the public information request from them. If they didn't give me back stuff from that request, that's fine. I understand some numbers are different.
So you requested actual expenditures year-to-date for the current
I requested all their financial information at the time I did this, and it took me a couple requests to get that.
Okay.
They didn't have monthly financial statements, which I requested.
Okay.
But, okay, so if I can continue. What they did do, though, was they managed to build a tremendously big bureaucracy. And it's incredible. They've got, and this is not necessarily the one they went with. They had a couple examples of what they were trying to do when I made the public information request back in June or July. But they certainly did make sure that they set up their tremendous special interest group, which is basically what they have accomplished. But I'll note that their budget of $778,000, which is simply their budgeted number, didn't include the opportunity cost. So, Mike, if you put on the third one is my spreadsheet. And this simply just took their numbers from boards, but I'll note that they've also said that they want to bring more people onto the boards. So if you just take their numbers and give an opportunity cost to them, that's another $170,000 at a minimum. Time that people could spend actually doing real work as opposed to building up a bureaucracy. And if you do that, then you're talking about $1 million to get $625,000. In no possible way can you justify that. It is a money-losing proposition regardless of how you look at it. You did talk about measuring metrics, and it would be a good thing to measure metrics. I agree. But we already have the Florida Department of Environmental Protection who measures metrics in 100,000 different ways, it seems, 999,000 of them from Indian River County, as we know from all the consultant costs. But they have a BMAP, Basin Management Action Program group, and they are the ones who should be gathering the information and putting out a unified set of metrics. I would welcome them, but they're the ones who should be doing that. And interestingly, going back to the EPA article, the executive director who you mentioned, Mr. DeFries, is asked about the possibility that the EPA might be sunsetted and they would lose the $625,000. And his quote in the paper is, if worse comes to worse, well, this is how the paper stylized it. It's not his quote, but it's taken from what he said. If worse comes to worse, the Lagoon Council could survive without the federal funding, DeFries said. So there you go. You've got a bureaucracy. The purpose of the bureaucracy to get the NEP funding could go away, but they want to maintain the bureaucracy. As President Reagan said, no government ever voluntarily reduces itself in size. Government programs, once lost, never disappear. Actually, a government bureau is the nearest thing to eternal life we'll ever see on this earth. And for myself, I believe, and I believe I've shown this in the last years, but this is a quote from Ronald Reagan, unless bureaucracy is constantly resisted, it breaks down representative government and overwhelms democracy. This Indian River Lagoon Council has broken down representative government and overwhelms democracy. I'll just remind you that in the memo that I wrote, that was never challenged, not one word of it was ever challenged, that the bureaucrats from FDEP and St. John's River Water Management District had already contracted with a third party to get the specific result that they wanted before this ever came before their NEP board, which included elected officials. And so if anybody believes, any individual commissioner actually believes that they're going to control the outcomes of this board when they're working part-time against a full-time bureaucracy, which now only has 4 people, but that's 4 people working full-time, I believe you're being incredibly naive. I believe we've shown that we can do great things where we put our money actually into removing nitrogen and phosphorus from the waters, and that the Indian River Lagoon Council wastes a lot of money by forming a bureaucracy. And I'll conclude this portion by saying no bureaucracy has ever removed a pound of nitrogen and phosphorus. Actual projects remove nitrogen and phosphorus, and only actual projects will work to restore the lagoon to health. Thank you.
Just one question on your opportunity cost slide. If
Yes.
you'll put that back up. You know, when I volunteer on boards or activities, I still make my own commitment. You're making it seem like these people are taking away from their other obligations if they decide to volunteer and become part of any advisory group, Boys and Girls Club, Red Cross, you name it, Lagoon Council. I guess you can quantify anything, but I guarantee you that everybody that's on there is still doing their full-time job, and they're doing this as an extra community involvement, and they're not doing what they do on a day-to-day basis to become part of the Lagoon Council. So it's good to quantify things, but I think if you put a price tag on what these people bring to the table for free and their expertise and their interest, you know, the multiple of what they bring to the table by wanting to become a giving member of the community and concerned about the lagoon is a number much greater than 170 based on some of the folks I'm familiar with on there and what their billing rates are that they would make.
Well,
they're making
But we already have that.
Statement or indication that everybody's a volunteer is not true. So we'll just understand that. If we go to just the Indian River County Council Board of Directors, we've got the 4 commissioners, but Drew Bartlett is paid by the citizens of the state of Florida. Kevin Powers is paid by no, he may not be, but
no, he's not. Doug Burning's not paid.
On the Indian River Council Management Board, I would think that the person from The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services is paid by the taxpayers. The St. Johns River Water Management District is paid by the taxpayers. The Volusia County staff person is paid by the taxpayers. The Mark Crosley Florida Inland Navigation District is probably paid by the taxpayers. You go up and down, Monty Falls, I know is paid by the city of Vero Beach, the taxpayers. As a matter of fact, me as a taxpayer of the city of Vero Beach. You have a tremendous number of staff there that go to these things. So first of all, a lot of it is actual dollars and actual costs. But the more important thing is when you talk about an opportunity cost, the meaning there is what is the lost opportunity by actually doing something different? Because I believe that all these people here, if they weren't at the Indian River Lagoon Council, wouldn't have gone home to watch TV, but they would be doing something else that would be valuable for our community. That's the opportunity cost, Commissioner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Solari, thank you for bringing the spreadsheet into the game. So.
And actually, I will at a future meeting, regardless what happens with the vote today, that the actual expenditures for the same time period versus the budgeted, just so that we have the apples and apples to compare to.
And that's fine. I'll tell you what, I'll make another public information request for all their financial information, just so we have it, and see if they actually now do monthly financial information. But I'll point out that this was an organization where one of their members from the Indian River Lagoon Board of Directors, Doug Bornick, said that they wanted to get $1 billion, $1 billion, and he was serious, but they didn't put in any financial controls, nor was there any discussion of any financial controls. And I find that to be an abomination. So, and you wonder why I don't like bureaucracies like that.
Well, you know, we don't like a lot of things our current outgoing federal administration has done, but we all still send in our taxes. Even though we protest and we don't like it, we still...
I understand that, but we also, most of us don't give them the rope to hang ourselves.
Commissioner Adams.
Yes, I'd just like to make a few comments about this. One, I don't think anybody on this board or any of the other boards that are members of the Lagoon Council are naive enough to think that we would control the outcome of what happens there. I think the goal is to be at the table and part of that conversation. You know, this is a group of what I would call the experts on the lagoon issue. I am not an expert on the lagoon issue. I know that there's an issue, there's a problem, and it needs to be solved. And I think that taking this regional approach is a good way to look at it in conjunction with what we're already doing in the county. Being a member or being at the table does not preclude us from continuing to do what we are doing locally. And I think that it shouldn't preclude us. In fact, we should maintain what we are doing and do more. But we should also be having these conversations. And we should be encouraging other people to have these conversations. You know, Brevard County is doing some amazing things with what they have planned for muck removal and other issues in the lagoon. And the goal is not what we as Indian River County are going to get out of being a member. The goal is what the lagoon in its totality is going to benefit from having us and everybody else at the table discussing best practices and discussing how we need to move forward and what regional projects need to be addressed. St. Lucie has many different issues than we do. Brevard has many different issues than we do. And we have different issues than they do. You know, this is basically, to generalize it, a task force that is charged with discussing and coming up with solutions to a specific issue, that issue being the lagoon. Any task force that's set up is by rights a special interest group, and their special interest is the health of the lagoon. I think that I personally have had many people wonder and question why we're not a member. We are looked at as the natural link between the north part of the lagoon and the south part of the lagoon. And we are also applauded for what we've done, what the county has done on their own. But we are encouraged, and I echo that, to do more, to be a part of this regional group. And I understand the bureaucratic concerns that Commissioner Solari has. However, I think, you know, this issue is beyond that, and we need to look at it from an overall approach, not just an Indian River County approach. That's my 2 cents on that.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the past, I have supported our position of not being a member of the council for a lot of the reasons that Commissioner Solari has reiterated here today. But having looked at the council now in the last year and a half they've been in effect, a couple things. One is, by being a member, I think we have better funding opportunities. For example, the Port Canaveral Port Authority just gave the council a $100,000 grant for some additional educational things. Commissioner Zork mentioned that the federal funding might be tied to members only. State funding, may be tied to the council that otherwise we might not have access to. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for increased funding above and beyond what we're doing currently. The public I have spoken to, as Commissioner Zork and Commissioner Adams have said, overwhelmingly the public has asked me, why aren't we a member? And you can go into the whole diatribe about a bureaucracy, but then they say, well, why aren't you guys a member? That really doesn't resonate with what the people want. And we deal with a lot of bureaucracies. Daily, almost every agency we deal with in Tallahassee is a bureaucracy. DEP. Sometimes we agree with them, sometimes we disagree, but we still work with them. We don't shut them out. We don't avoid them. And one of the things, Commissioner Solari said, as far as the standardized monitoring and data collection and stuff, he said DEP should be doing this, and I agree, but they're not. So somebody needs to do it. And, I think sometimes we always talk about local government being closest to the people and the best. And I think sometimes in an issue like the lagoon, that the local government or an organization like this is the best to handle that job. And then finally, two things. One is, we always have the option, if we do join, we always have the option down the road, if, say the federal funding goes away, we can always pull out. I mean, this isn't a forever commitment. But I think it would do a lot for the public perception and for unity and the funding opportunities to be a member. And then finally, when a very, very, very high ranking Florida senator who just happens to be in charge of the Appropriations Committee, chairs it, asked me directly, why aren't you a member of the council? Telling him, well, because it's a bureaucracy, didn't carry a whole lot of sway, in my opinion. So I do understand, Commissioner Solari's points, but I think at this point, I'm willing to look past the past and look to the future. And I think that the public wants us to be a member, and I think we should move forward in that direction.
I'll just note, interestingly, I've had the same conversation with a lot of members from the public, but when I've taken the time to explain exactly how it was formed and the corruption that was in its formation from the start, they've all been very accepting of not joining. So I think a lot of it is just being able to take the time to explain why. So, but that's...
Commissioner Solari, you had the opportunity as chairman to ride and tour some of our facilities to reduce nitrogen in the lagoon with that high-ranking Senate official responsible for appropriations, correct?
That's correct.
And was that ever brought up? Because I couldn't know until today, but we're here.
No, he did not ask me about that.
Nothing at all?
Not at all.
Was he impressed at what we were doing?
He was very impressed.
I realize that he's going to be in a position of great latitude to send funds or appropriate some expenditures or be one half of that vote on one side of the House. But, again, Commissioner O'Brien, you mentioned that the people want us to belong. I like to be a card-carrying member in an organization that has a little bit of a track record or an effectiveness quotient, not just to feel good that we belong, because that's not enough reason to belong to an organization just because, well, it's good we have that membership card now. And I have not seen anything that has been productive in their pathway. And again, I've asked Commissioner Zork, and you know, we haven't come up with anything that really that they've done it. They've made inroads, they've made progress, they've made discussion, they've had requests for appropriations.
Well, no, they have
and they got the
distributed about
$100,000.
They've distributed $1.3 million in projects to the local counties and municipalities. So like Commissioner Zork said, if you want, you can go to their website and scroll down and look at all the projects that they have funded. And one of them, it was mentioned that Sebastian got some money for a oyster reef. They also got $100,000 for septic to sewer assistance. And Vincent Burke will be up before the Sebastian City Council next week to talk to them about our Phase 1 and Phase 2 septic to sewer hookup. And the city of Sebastian has indicated that $100,000 can be part of that project. So that's, to me, those are concrete things that are happening that the council has done. And that's where I think the collaboration will be beneficial for future projects such as that.
We just spent about, it is related, we just spent about 45 minutes responding to the road issue and having another body throw some roadblocks into our road project or our maintenance project. And we don't know where that's going to lie in the balance. But now we're reliant upon another body, another board, to decide whether we can go forward other than what we're doing with just a basic general maintenance plan. And I just think that we have done so well. I'd rather see like, for example, the Oyster Reef project cost us $28,000. For the membership, we can have another 2 Oyster Reef projects. That's if the other bodies approve what we plan to do, what staff would like to do, if they can get the consent of another governing body and then another regulatory body. And I get fatigued about the amount of embodiment that we have to overcome. You can state the benefits of having the opportunity to have funds dispersed, but when we're moving forward, or we want to move forward, to have another body get in the way, I do have some grave concerns.
Mr. Chairman, how would they get in the way when they're not a jurisdictional permitting authority?
No, they're not a permitting authority, but that's not to say that their decisions will be based, it's more or less right back to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning. You know, we can cite some benefits on being a member, but we can also cite the fact that things aren't going in our direction, and we have to represent the citizens of our county and be good stewards of their needs. And if we're capable of doing that without another embodiment, whether they're regulatory or not, then I feel that mission accomplished, that we're going forward, and we have, I think we have a stronger list of accomplishments this year alone. That's right, little old Indian River County, without another body to be able to determine where funds go and what timing the projects get done.
I find it amazing that this board, which has some of its biggest fights right now against other bureaucracies like the Florida Municipal Power Agency, the Florida Development Finance Corporation, the U.S. Department of Transportation, where that does not inform their view of what can become of bureaucracies. Yes, it's always very nice and idealistic to think that this next bureaucracy is going to be benign, but over time, especially when they don't have a clear vision and mission statement, which they didn't at their formation, because I was on their setup committee, and they wouldn't even entertain discussions about those type of things. All they were interested in was getting the interlocal agreements done so they could set up trying to get money from people and other entities. I kept on saying a number of times that both as the subcommittee member and as a member of the board, that yes, we have to do what we can to return the lagoon to health. We have to try to get money for that. But at least the elected officials here have the responsibility to promote good government. So we have two tasks, promoting good government and returning the lagoon to health, but they would never discuss the idea of promoting good government. That was and interestingly, when the board initially said that, okay, we want you, the subcommittee, to discuss, it was about 6 or 7, 8 different distinct items, the type of things you would think you would want a new group to discuss, the staff immediately passed over them at the first meeting to discuss an interlocal agreement which the staff had generated before any discussions. So just understand that the elected officials are just figureheads for this new organization. They have all those other subcommittees underneath them, the management committee, this committee, that committee, simply to make sure that the process is properly guided by staff, so by the time you get to the meeting where the elected official is, who's got more than he can do anyway in terms of meetings and tasks, that 99% of the decision has already been determined. And we've seen to see this all over in other bureaucracies, but because this is the lagoon, we suddenly don't see it here. And I'm amazed that it seems that everybody wants good government until they want something from government. And I find that to be incredibly disappointing. There's a Bible study about Esau and a bowl of porridge. And the idea that I got from that was that you don't sell your birthright cheaply. And our birthright is a functioning representative government based on the Constitution of the United States. And as a matter of fact, I swore an oath to protect the Constitution and promote good government this morning. And this does not promote good government. This undermines representative democracy, and it undermines what I believe are the things we are sworn to protect.
You know, I came here with an open mind, and thank you for that. I did ask you, Commissioner Zorc, if there were, what the list of accomplishments were, and I truly didn't hear anything in there other than we're setting up, we're getting acquainted, we're making relationships.
Would like me to go to their website and read them for you?
No,
Because I believe they're
that was
published here.
earlier, and I understand that they have secured some funding, and Commissioner O'Brien has also added to the fact that funding has been secured and dispersed, and projects are well on their way. But I believe that we still have the same mechanism here, and that our staff has done a yeoman's job in designing projects, getting projects moving, without the cumbersome load of a wide variety of individuals to add to the decision-making process.
Well, again,
and
why
we've gotten funding.
Why would we change any of that? Why wouldn't we keep that exactly the way it is and look to add to additional project that you may secure funding for because you're part of the Lagoon Council? We wouldn't change any of our goals and objectives of what we've done for the last 16 years on issues for the lagoon and projects that the county has funded and moved forward. Why would we change any of that? We wouldn't.
Well, Commissioner, let somebody else have the money from the benighted bureaucracy. The lagoon doesn't care who does the project, and let's keep standing up for what we believe is good government and not simply join an organization for the money when we could be sending a signal that good government, that representative democracy, that the ideals of America are still important.
Well, I'd say the public perception is, right or wrong on their opinion, that becoming a member of the Lagoon Council is good government, and they would like us to be represented there. Again, I open up with, I understand and respect your opinion, I just have a different opinion.
Well, you do, and again, I'm amazed that when I talk to people, they have no problem with it, once I clearly explained why we're not members. So I find that to be interesting. So if you want to, I can give you another copy of my memo so you can refresh yourself onto why we didn't.
Oh, I've told people that, and same as Commissioner O'Brien, then they would say, and so with all that, why aren't you a member? They They just see as being, there's value at being at the table versus not being at the table. We will not change, we will not do one project. We will continue to do what we've done and be a leader as a standalone county. But I think there's more that we can do by being at the table than not being at the table.
And that's where we disagree.
And I still don't see any more benefit by being a card-carrying member as opposed to
If
going
it gets you
forward the
in
way
the
we
door of
have.
opportunity, I think having the card to get through the door has a lot of value.
So we should not fight the cities trying to be a member of the FMPA then?
Nope.
So I believe Commissioner Zork made the motion to
Yes.
join the Lagoon Council. I would
And
second
you
that.
seconded that now,
So
okay?
just,
We
Any-
can probably call the question.
Yeah, any further discussion?
kinda
Is
what I
there
was
anybody in the public that would like to
Is it
bring
lunchtime, Bob?
something
Oh, no,
additional
I'm
to the
I'll take a
table?
little while longer.
Check the time. Good
I
afternoon,
don't write the
gentlemen.
script, but I have to
ladies.
read it.
My name is Carter Taylor. I am the acting executive director of the Indian River Neighborhood Association and also a member of the IRNA's Lagoon Committee. I've come today to speak in favor of Commissioner Zork's motion. I do believe that Indian River County is conspicuously absent from this committee. I understand the objections, which date back now several years, to the way that this committee council was reorganized and restructured. But that was really a long time ago. And this is not some kind of false regional planning artifice in order to create a centralized authority over local decision making. The lagoon is an inherently regional matter. The lagoon does not stop at one county or the other, and therefore it's something that is amenable to true regional cooperation. And there are very few choices that we have in terms of joining onto multi-jurisdictional cooperation, and this is one of them. So I think it's very important, and our committee and organization thinks it's very important for Indian River County to be at the table and be part of the discussion. There are several reasons for this. One reason is the money, but that's really just one of the reasons. If we don't like the way that this council is governed, we should bring our good ideas to the council, and we should bring our effective leadership, and we should affect change. That's what leaders do. If we don't participate in the process, and if others like us who bring quality ideas and leadership don't join the process, yes, you're going to end up with a mediocre bureaucracy. It's important for us to engage and be part of that process so we can bring our good ideas and be leaders in that organization. And we can do that. We've had some very good success here in this county. Let's share our success and the strengths that we have that brought forth that success and make this organization into something it really ought to be. Now, much has been made about the political philosophy of limited government, about permanent bureaucracies. I can't believe that 4 people constitute a permanent bureaucracy that's going to overwhelm democracy. I think that that's a bit of hyperbole. I think that the engagement, though, of the people in this process will bring about a democratic process, and these ideas will be brought forward. I also would like to point out and underline what Commissioner Zork has said, that our membership in this council does not necessarily have any bearing on what we're already doing. We can continue to do everything that we're already doing and already planning to do. This is simply another method of which to exchange information and to seek grant opportunities, just like everyone else is doing. So why are we not members of this? I mean, are we trying to make some kind of statement by not being members of this? You know, I just don't know whether what happened several years ago is sufficient justification to be trying to make a statement of this at this point in time. A lot of water's gone under the bridge. I would prefer, and I would prefer that you consider, rather than looking back on what happened with this body, to look forward as to what we can do with it. Because everything is in the future. What's past is past. You're not going to change that. But by being part of this, we can affect leadership and change that we need to have. And our absence from it will not improve our situation from where it already is. Thank you.
I have a couple comments, and if I may, and a couple questions. First, the idea of a four-person bureaucracy is not being damaging to democracy, or that my statement that it would be damaging to democracy is hyperbole. I fully disagree. And a lot of people in literature have said, and I certainly agree, that we lose our liberty one small slice at a time. And I don't care to give up any more slices. The idea of what type of statement you're making, the statement is clear. At least the statement I'm trying to make is that we need to promote good government at all times. And as an elected official, I believe that that's my responsibility. A question I have, since we have you before the audience today, is that there'd been what I labeled the Spoonville conspiracy, and it was put forward by a guy named Shapiro, but it was based on evidently a report that you did. And 32963 in an article came out with the idea that based on that report, according to Shapiro, that was basically, Spoonville Marsh was an industrial waste dump, toxic waste dump, basically. But it's my understanding from what you said yesterday is that that was not in your report. And so I just want to make sure that the public understands that there was nothing about that type of bad pollution in your report.
Mr. Chairman, are these
I didn't want
comments
to
in order?
interrupt, but at this point, let's leave the issue where it is now. That sounds like a discussion for a later point, and we're coupling what happened at a previous meeting. And I appreciate that, Commissioner Solari, and you want to make what you perceive as a wrong right, but I don't believe that this is the appropriate time for that, and we can put that as an agenda item.
Well, he was talking about water issues, so I thought it was, but that's fine.
I know,
That's fine.
I know, but I didn't want to interrupt, but I do
find
want
it
to
amazing
end
that
at that point. Thank you, sir.
My point is, and the reason that I'm here today, and the reason that you're in elected office is you want to improve from the status quo. So if we engage in this process, we have an opportunity to improve the status quo. And if we don't engage in it, and all of us, none of us engage in it, then yes, you're going to have a stagnant bureaucracy. So I am for positive engagement and a place at the table rather than a principled, and I acknowledge it's a principled objection to the birth of this organization. But that's all in the past. And I would keep my eye firmly fixed on what could be done and should be done with it in the future.
If you forget your past, you have no future.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioner. Is there anyone else that has anything to add to this discussion? Yes, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Andrea Ring. I live at 407 Quarry Lane in Sebastian. I have been a member of Indian River County for 10 years now. And believe me, this is the first meeting I am attending. So I am definitely in favor of you all joining the Indian River Lagoon because up in Sebastian, I am on the Natural Resource Board. Currently, I am the chair of the Natural Resource Board.
Thank you for your service.
And I have not done anything at the county level. Maybe I should think about coming down to the county and doing some stuff down here. But, you know, right now I'm still the chair for about a year. So I have attended a couple of these meetings, and one of the things that they did was remember the fish kill we had. And that made national news. Well, they came up and they explained it at one of the council meetings, and they showed us exactly what happened. So to me, that was very educational. They are doing things education-wise. And the other thing is because I'm always being told about the fertilizer. So the other thing they're doing is they got a major manufacturer to work with the 5 counties and develop a fertilizer for the 5 counties, even though Indian River is not a part of the member, but you are in the league. You have your Sebastian, Fellsmere, and Vero Beach got together and formed the league, and they are representing Indian River indirectly, but still they are representing us. And I just feel that if the county joined, it would just give it a little more, you know, emphasis. You know, you've got the county now rather than just the league.
Not to enter into debate about it, but the two of the fertilizer companies who did identify themselves here when we were talking about the fertilizer ordinance, and yes, we did take the lead on that, they also committed to us that they would find ways to reduce the nitrogen in what they have, and they have done that on their own, so it was no compelling factor by an organization. And that's the concern I have, is that, you know, the organization will say, well, we talked to them, so let's take the credit on that. It is, I'll mention one of the companies was Miracle Grow, and the other was, and the Scott's company. They had representatives here and said they would immediately reduce, and they would work, and they would come forward, and they did solicit and advertise some of their products. And our staff has been working, going store to store, to make sure that it's being distributed in the right way. And I think we have a tremendous success rate here in Indian River County.
Yes, and he did say that
Yes.
the company contacted him. He didn't contact the company. So the company did contact him, and then they said it was, you know, hopefully you all get together education-wise and show that you need to use this new kind of fertilizer that doesn't have all the middle number in it. And I don't remember what they are, sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right, but they explained that to us, and they said they were committed to do that. Of course, they have a vested interest. They're trying to sell a product.
Of course, of
and
course.
that we will be under-fertilized if they do not conform. We passed an ordinance, and they were excited to be able to come back with a product that would be more suitable and environmentally friendly. But they did that.
Okay, but see, that's how then you would
that's the
affect
perception I'm
the
talking
Indian
about.
River, because then it's now gone to all 5 counties. Now that that you helped talk to the fertilizer people about, now it's gone to all the 5 counties, and now it's down to Martin County all the way up to Brevard. They're talking about that being, you know, part of being sold in 5 counties rather than just the 1, which makes it so much better, right? I just think if you would have a chance to help formulate what the council is going to do, you would be there. And I just think if not, the league would still be there. But I still think the county should join.
Well, sometimes when you're confronted with such a challenge as we are with the lagoon, that it is comforting to be a card-carrying member of an organization that's going to be able to come forward to help. Help is on the way. But I attribute that the same way as to insurance companies and other mechanisms. When you have a loss and you take that card out of your wallet and actually make the phone call, and they say you're not covered. And the same holds true with this, was where there might be disbursement of funds, and yes, they may be able to come to us, may or may not. We already have a staff that's doing that. So I don't know why we want to throw in another layer of involvement.
It would just be, you would coordinate then. That is the main thing that they're trying to do, is coordinate all of the efforts, because Brevard has its things that it wants to do. Martin has its things it wants to do. And you would be coordinating them. You would, you know, so that you wouldn't be duplicating some of the same stuff, and that, yeah, it is all interconnected. So what you do up there does affect me down here. So that we need to be able to communicate and coordinate.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Well, I just wanted to let you know what a county resident felt.
Thank you. Anything further? Anybody else have any input? All right, we have a motion on the floor to go forward again. Commissioner Zorc, that's a motion to
become a member of the Indian River Lagoon Council.
Okay, so you've changed that motion to just be a little more direct. And Commissioner Adams, you second that
I
very
do.
same motion?
Yes.
Madam Clerk? Okay. All right. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye. Motion carries with Commissioner Solari and Flesher dissenting. So we'll see what as we go forward. With that, is there anything further to be discussed?
Solid waste disposal.
The solid waste disposal.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the minutes of September 13, September 20, October 4,
Second.
October 18, 2016.
And second.
Wait, see, he's got that, very good there. That's a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. With that, I'd like to wish everyone a,
Final Eighth Amendment.
Move approval of
Second.
staff recommendation pending unless Vinnie has something
the
earth-shattering,
feedstock
but
supply.
it seems pretty straightforward to me.
Just technical things, as we watched earlier today, I was discussing some small issue changes with the attorney from representing INEOS, and we just had 2 non-substantive changes, referencing the second sentence, now referencing the first sentence, and changing a year from 2014 to 2016. So
I
we
think
just
we already had the
recommend.
motion and a second for that.
Move approval to the agreement
Second.
as amended by County Attorney Reingold.
And that's a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now you
It
can wrap it up.
does appear that we've concluded, so if nobody has anything further, I trust I speak on behalf of this entire board to wish everyone a blessed Thanksgiving. Thank you.